going to be having a discussion with my friend here, Master Ari. I'm sorry, how do you say your name?
MasterAretosis. Sorry,
I'm sorry about that. MasterAretosis. Did I say that right?
you said it correct.
All right. So, we wanted to have a discussion about self-ownership, right? That's basically the the topic of discussion. So where do you want to start? Do you want
I
to?
think you had your well, it's your argument, and I think we agreed that since you're trying to justify your conception that you can be a self-owner, that you should maybe lay out your argument, and then I can go from there.
All right, no problem. I'll lay out my argument then. So, my basic argument is that we are the owners of our bodies, and that's what we mean by self-ownership. I know a lot. I know self is kind of different from body, but we say self-ownership because most people know what that means. Yada yada, English language. But what I mean by that is body ownership. Basically, your body is indeed a scarce resource, which means, and when I say scarce, that means that there could be conflicts over a given object if two people can't use it in exclusionary ways, which means that if my use doesn't excludes your use of that thing, well then that is a scarce object. Our body is a scarce object, so in a dispute over that scarce resource, we have no choice but to choose an owner of that scarce resource. We have to say somebody in this dispute must win in this dispute, and whoever you believe ought to win in that dispute, you're basically saying this person should be the owner. And because I believe the person who inhabits their body ought to win in the dispute, I believe that the person who is the owner of their body is the owner of their body. Or inhabiting their body is the owner of their body. Sorry, I said that incorrectly, but I'm sure you understand what I mean. And that's it.
Yeah. So basically, I'm gonna say that. Oh, before I do that, can you tell me too what you think self-ownership leads to downstream? Like, what are the stakes of being a self-owner or not?
Well, self ownership just basically means that so long as you aren't violating the or aggressing against another person, and when we say aggressing against another person, we're saying violating the rights of another innocent person, whether it be trespass, which would be using their property without their consent, or initiating force against another person without their consent. Whether it be punching them, taking their stuff. Things like that would be included in that. Now, if you want to ask me more about that, I could get more and deeper into that, but I'm sure you understand what I mean by that. So that's basically the idea.
Well, I guess what I'm kind of meaning is, um, what is at stake with being a self-owner? Like, why would we want to define ourselves as being able to be owned or not? Like, what do you think is entailed by that?
Oh, well, if you're not the owner of your body, that would mean other people would have the right to use your body
There we
without
go.
your consent, when you have not harmed another innocent person. The only time when another person would be allowed to use your body without your consent is when you forgoed your rights by violating another person's rights.
Gotcha. Okay,
Hmm.
and my last question before I give any critique, just so I'm not critiquing a straw man. Do you think this is a natural right as well, correct?
Well, believe that this is a right, personally.
A
Um,
natural right. A natural. I'm asking if you believe,
what do you mean
like,
by natural right? Define what you mean by natural right.
yeah, so you have it based on some objective criteria, not on like the subjective decree of a state or society or other people.
Yeah, I would say that it is. Yeah, it must be. It is objectively true that you are linked to you. You have an objective link to your body, and
Objectively own yourself, right?
yeah,
There's
I would
no.
say so. Yeah.
Okay, cool, perfect. All right, so my critique of that is basically that I do not think that we should consider selves to be owned. I think it's we could like how may I phrase this? We could create some kind of law in which we treat ourselves as owners of our bodies, and usually we do that in such a way. There's no like objective reason to do that, other than to preserve some moral intuitions about ourselves. And the ownership is the easiest legal framework, but there's no like right to use yourself out there floating around, right? It's just like a heuristic society uses to adjudicate moral disputes.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So we don't have to argue on the objective basis. I'm just going to argue that you and everybody agrees with me, whether they say so or they do not, because to not agree with it would entail other you being okay with other people using your body without your consent, and I'm sure you don't agree with that. So if you don't agree with that, then you must agree with me.
So what I think you're doing right now is you're conflating a descriptive claim with a prescriptive claim. So I don't agree with you because I think even though societies may treat yourself as an owner in some situations, it doesn't mean that just because you don't have ownership that you are of your body that someone can aggress on you. That doesn't follow, right?
Well,
You don't need to be an owner to have something be morally wrong.
well, if you're the owner of something, that means you have the right to stop other people or exclude other people from using that thing.
Um, yes, but there's other reasons why you could exclude a thing besides ownership too.
Well, yes, but that's what we're talking. We're talking about ownership fundamentally, right?
Well, no. So you're saying that you are an owner because you are able to exclude people from using your body for
No, I'm saying
against.
you believe that you are. Well, everyone believes that they're a self owner when they use their body. And if you were to stop someone from using your body and also claim that you are not a self owner, you would be contradicting yourself. Because what gives you the right to stop someone from using your body if you don't own it?
Yeah, so we can answer that. So I would say there'd be other moral reasons besides the concept of ownership that make it someone else unable to use your body. Namely, respect for human dignity or autonomy, or um, I guess what would be the word, like social harmony.
Yeah, but I feel that's just another roundabout way of saying that you're basically saying that, and if I'm not mistaken, let me know if I'm incorrect, but you're saying that you do have the right to exclude other people from your body when you have not initiated an aggression, correct?
So I don't think every instance of you excluding some use of something is ownership.
Well, I never even used the word owner. I'm just saying fundamentally you believe that if you are an innocent person, you haven't initiated an aggression against another person, you have the right to exclude other people from your body.
Do you mean in a legal sense or a moral sense?
Well, either. You could answer either
Um,
way.
in a moral sense, another person should not attack your body. No,
Yeah, so
unless
your
unless
basic.
it's
Sorry, go ahead.
unless it's like self defense or perhaps to prevent
Of
like
course.
a certain evil or something like that.
Yeah. That's why I said like an innocent person. You know what I'm saying? That's why I tacked on innocent person because like it's not like a
Oh yeah, sorry.
situation of self defense. You know what I mean? So you're saying that yeah, you do have the right to exclude other people from your body when you have not initiated an aggression.
I have the sorry. Say that again.
You're saying that you do have a right to exclude other people from your body when you have not initiated an aggression.
I don't think I'm excluding use of that. I prevent. You have a right. Yeah, I'm not even gonna say right because I don't use rights the same way
Use
you
without your
use.
consent. How about that?
Uh, it's not even about consent necessarily because even if you consent, there's situations where someone wouldn't use
Can
your
I come
body.
up to you and punch you?
Yes, you can.
Well, would it be okay? Would you think that's okay?
I would
That's what
say
I mean when I say that.
I know. So I would say you would be morally wrong.
Yeah, okay. So you're basically saying it would be wrong for you to use my body without my consent when I haven't hurt anybody.
Um, I don't know about that because I can think of situations where even if you gave consent, it would still be morally wrong.
Okay, give me a situation.
Um, if you had manipulated someone into consenting to something, and even though they did consent, you would be wrong to aggress on them or do whatever you're
Are you
doing.
talking about like a trick? Like Like a fraud?
Not just a fraud, but like manipulated, as in like, for example, like if a cult use your situation to get you into some kind of indoctrination.
I mean, what rights would you be violating in that situation?
Well, again, I don't call them rights when we're talking morally speaking, because I don't believe in natural rights. I think you'd be doing something immoral, despite them having consented.
Yeah, but what do you think he's done immoral?
The cult leader,
Yeah, like I can't convince somebody to join my cult. Like, what's wrong with that?
because cults are intentionally manipulative behavior in order to, I guess, gain something for yourself.
I mean, you may personally think that's wrong, but like, I can't see any rights
I think,
violation happening.
well, I don't. You again, I don't use rights in the way you're using them, but I think it's immoral because it's not respecting another human being in the sense that they should be.
Okay, I
I
mean,
think
you
it's
could. How about this? Should someone be prevented from starting a cult? Like, should I like if I wanted to start the cult of Sithis, should I be prevented from like
you
making
mean
a cult?
legally prevented, or do you mean
Like,
social?
well,
Like
I
people
mean,
should.
one way or another. Like, do you
I
think?
think people should try to stop it. I don't know if it needs to be legally because it get very questionable as to what is defined as a cult. So I wouldn't make a law about it.
All right, so this is
Yeah,
kind of like where I'm going with this. All right, so with us libertarians, we believe that if there's no dispute going on, if there's no rights violation going on, then law should have no say on the matter. You know what I mean? So, and a rights violation would entail an aggression, and initiating force against an innocent person when they haven't done so, taking their stuff, harming them. Um, lying doesn't really fall into that. You may look at the guy like an asshole. Like, I would look at cult leaders like they're assholes, right? Because they're manipulating people, like you said. But are they violating anyone's rights? That's really the thing that I think that's most important.
well, so this goes back to our original dispute, which we talked about, right? You believe that rights are one thing, I believe rights are another thing. So, it's possible in my system to have a society that has rights to not be lied to. Um, I guess our current society kind of does, right? So, like libel and slander, fraud are going to be illegal.
Well, how about this?
But
I'll define what I mean by right, right? I believe a right is an action that ought not be impeded. Do you disagree with that?
yes,
Okay, so what do you disagree with that?
I view rights specifically in a legal sense that they're and in sorry, they are a social or legal protection granted you from specific actions.
So society chooses what rights you have.
Yes.
So if society decided to that it's okay to enslave other individuals, would that make it legally okay? Like that would make it legitimate under your criteria.
You would not have the right to not be enslaved, but it would still be morally wrong.
Well, I
That's a
mean,
separate.
we could both agree that slavery is morally wrong, but if like a country were to say, if a society were to say, I think we should enslave, this X group of people, you would say that's perfectly legitimate because that's what society has decided.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say it would be legal, but it's immoral. It's not a
Well, no, no,
legitimate
no.
law.
Well, legitimate as in you would say that's legal. That's like they should be allowed to
Definite,
do that.
tautologically, yeah. If there's a law, it's legal.
Well, in the sense that you consider that to be a legitimate law.
No, it's just
Well,
it
so
is a
then you don't
law.
really care about what society thinks.
I do care what well, I care about what society thinks in the when I'm defining what a law is, but whether they think it's a good law or not is
Well, how
I
do you
don't care about that.
determine whether a law is legitimate or not?
Whether wait, hold on, real quick. Just want to be clear because I don't want to commit to something that I we don't both mean.
No, that's
Are you
fine.
using are you using legitimate in the sense that it is in fact a binding law.
Yeah, like that is the law, and like, well, it is what it is. Like, for instance, you know how like some people they'd be like, like the seatbelt laws, you know what I mean? Like, oh well, that's a legitimate law. I follow it. Yeah, I'm gonna follow it because that's what the society has chosen.
No, so now to me you're mixing up what I would call justification with legitimacy, right? So I would say slavery, I guess, would be a legitimate law in the sense that it is a law, but it's not justified.
Okay, so how do you determine?
Are you
like,
real quick? Are you
yeah,
okay with that distinction?
I guess, but the thing is, just like, how do you my next question will be, how do you determine whether a law is justified or not?
Well, you look at if it's morally right or not.
So that you don't care what society thinks. You're looking at what you morally think is right or wrong for you to determine whether you think a law is just or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this whole idea of like society choosing what is ownership, you don't believe that.
No, because I don't. You're conflating what I'm saying again. So I'm saying that whether it's a legitimate law, whether it actually is a law, is determined by society, because a law definitionally is basically an agreement between multiple people. But whether or not it's moral or not has nothing to
No,
do.
well, how about this? Let me explain it like this here. Let me clarify maybe what you're trying to say. I think like the legitimate law, I guess is what you're trying to say, is like marijuana is illegal in some states. That's like the legitimate law. I don't consider that to be a just law. I consider that to be an unjust law, and I would fight against it because I don't care what society, even if society chose that law to be the law, I'm going to consider it to be an unjust law, and I'm not going to follow it. I don't consider it to be just. So how do you
I think that real quick. I think that's
go ahead.
totally fair.
Mm-hmm.
Totally fair characterization of what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you determine whether a law is just or not? Because we could both acknowledge all day this is the law, that is the law in this country, this is the law in that country, but that doesn't tell you whether or not the law is just, right?
I'll determine it through my moral principles.
Yeah, of course. So society doesn't matter society doesn't really matter when you're justifying whether or not someone has the right to do this or that.
Well, so here you're mixing up what I'm saying again, right? So whether or not we have a right is totally determined by society. Whether or not that right is justified or not is not determined by society.
How do you determine whether or not your right to do this X thing is justified?
I weigh it against my moral standards.
So then society doesn't matter.
As far as whether it's justified, whether or not it's a right.
Yeah, because that's all I care about. I don't care. Like, anyone could say this is the law, this is the law, this is the law. But is that a good, just law? That's what really matters, right?
Whether it's just or not and whether it's a law or not are two distinct questions.
Of course.
I think you agree with that?
Yeah, of course. Because like I just said, I could say all day, this is the law in this country, this is the law in that country. But what really matters, right, is whether or not that's a just law, whether or not we should follow that law.
Well, I feel like this is interesting then, because then it seems like you don't believe in natural law.
Well, I believe that natural law is the just law. Because it makes perfect sense based on. Go ahead.
No, it seems to me like what you're doing now is you're not actually defending natural law theory. You're just.
Well, I am defending it. I believe it's the best law. I just believe all these other laws are unjustified because they violate people's rights.
You agree that they are legally binding laws?
No, not now. Not as of now.
Okay, so then you said you.
Well, when you mean legally, okay, sorry, let me clarify. Just sorry. When I say legally binding, is it enforced by a government? No. As of right now, no.
What's no? What's not legally enforced?
Natural law.
Well, natural law isn't. Yeah. But
yeah.
But you're saying like if something is a law, say marijuana is banned.
I would say that's an unjust law.
It is a law, right?
Well, yeah, it's a law like that they created. You could say it is a law, but it's unjust. And that's what really matters to me.
You'd say it's a legitimate law.
Well, it depends on what you mean by legitimate. When I say legitimate, I mean like like people have consider it to be legitimate, as in they hold it to their own. Like people in the United States, a lot of people think it's bad to smoke weed, so they don't think any twice about a marijuana law being illegal. So they think it's justified. They think it's fine. That society thinks it's okay. That's what I mean by legitimate. But that doesn't mean that I'm saying that law is justified. I think that's an unjust law.
So you agree, so you think it's a legitimate law, right? Like,
if you mean, when you say legitimate, you mean what I mean by saying legitimate, and what I mean by legitimate, I mean like people have consider it to be legitimate, not that I actually think it's legitimate. Yeah.
I think you think you don't think any laws are legitimate because you don't think we should have a government, right?
Well, I don't think any unjust law is legitimate.
You don't think any laws are legitimate?
No, I believe that natural law is legitimate.
But like, if
which is pretty much
law, you would be against it because you're against all states, aren't you?
Well, I'm against a state, yeah, because states are a criminal organization that violate the consent of innocent people who live under its system.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like here. I'm going to characterize what you're saying, and you tell me if you agree with it or not. Okay.
Sure.
So what I'm getting from you is that you don't think there should be a central legislative force or executive force that determines what is and is not law. You think everything should be determined by people's morality, basically.
No.
Or their ethics.
No, I think it should be, law should be determined on whether or not you are violating the rights of another innocent person. And what I mean by violating the rights of another innocent person is aggressing against another person. That's what it should be based on. And it should be just based on disputes over scarce means.
So who's making the laws?
Now, law is discovered. It is not, no one makes the law. I mean, unless you look to the person who created natural law. I mean, but he discovered,
sorry, I'm interrupting. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm rambling. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So, but to me, if you're saying that, like, if you violate whatever law, you're essentially saying that you're violating a moral or ethical standard. So then, to me, you're not really talking about law. You're just talking about ethics.
Well, law is a subset of ethics. Ethics determines what actions are good and what are not good, and law determines how we enforce that.
Yeah, I disagree. Law to me is not a subset of ethics.
Law is basically a way to settle disputes over scarce means, and that's how we view it.
So, do you have an argument for why law for natural law, I guess?
Well, because everyone believes it, whether or not they say so or they don't. If you use your body, you're basically saying, I ought have the right to use my body. Because if you didn't believe you had the right to use your body, you would just lay flat. You know what I mean? And if you were to argue that an ownership to us is basic, yes, this is being live streamed on my channel. And if you are basically saying that you ought have the right to exclude or if you're saying that you're not the owner of your body, but then if somebody comes to punch you and you try to stop them, well, then you're basically saying, I have the right to exclude you from the property or the scarce resource that is my body. So you're basically saying, I have the right in a dispute to exclude you from my body, while also saying that, in your words, that you don't believe in self-ownership. That's a contradiction. That doesn't make any sense. Either if you don't believe that you are the owner of your body, then you would just lay flat and never even use it, because if you are not the owner, what gives you the right to that scarce resource?
Okay, so you didn't really answer my question, but I actually think that's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the question?
I was asking for an argument for natural law, and you gave me self-ownership, but that's going to be fine, because I think we should put a pin in the natural law discussion for a second and go back to self-ownership. So basically, I'm going to go over can I go over the argument that you gave that you gave with me?
Yeah,
earlier?
Go ahead. And then I'll let you know if I feel like if you're incorrect or I said whatever. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to use the one that we wrote down, because I think it's the similar gist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you said, assume we're not self-owners. If there's a conflict between two or more people, other people would have the right to use our bodies. Therefore, we must be self-owners.
Yeah, so if you believe that as an innocent person, you have the right to exclude other people from your body, you're saying that you are the owner in a dispute over your body. You ought to be the owner.
So my problem is that so you're trying to show that we in fact do have a right to control our bodies, right?
Well, no, I'm saying that everyone believes that they have the right to their body, whether they say so or they do not, by using their bodies.
Well, but you believing it doesn't make it a fact or not, right?
No, that doesn't make it a fact. What makes it
Yeah.
so all of this is like social constructions that we've sort of created to settle disputes over scarce means, right? And when you when you use
whoa.
what?
No, sorry.
Oh, what I was going to say is that that we use these to sort of settle disputes over scarce means. And when you use your body, you're basically saying in your mind or through your actions, you're saying I ought have the right to use this thing, because if you didn't believe you had the right to use that thing, well then you wouldn't use it.
So you said two interesting things to me there. One, you said it's a social construction. So I would be opposed to natural rights. So I'm not sure you want to use that term, but if you do,
Well, I mean, the words that we use, I mean to say, the words that we use are social constructions to sort of explain what we mean by what we say. And our actions basically, and the word self-ownership is basically is a social construction, a word that we've created to sort of identify what we mean when we act and use our body. When we act and use our body, what we're trying to say is what we're communicating through our actions is that I am the owner of this scarce resource.
I want to pause you there though, because you're saying self-ownership is a social construction. You're not saying self-ownership is a social construction. You're saying the words we use are?
Well, of course they are.
What do you mean by that though?
As in, we made them up. Society made up these words to communicate with each other.
But what is that? I'm confused how that lends itself to your argument.
Oh, it was just a part of my argument. The overall argument is that individuals say that use their body are saying that they are the owners of their bodies through their actions. Because if they didn't believe that, they wouldn't do anything. Because we are, you would agree that we are self-moving beings. Like we choose our own actions, correct?
Well, I'm gonna put a pin on that, and I promise I'll answer it. You can ask me again. But
sure.
So what you said earlier that just because you believe it doesn't make it true, right?
No.
Okay. No, you didn't say that, or no, just because you believe it doesn't make it true.
No, well, I mean, just because you believe something doesn't make it necessarily true.
Okay. So, but then your argument is that we are self-owners because we believe we're self-owners. So then it seems like it doesn't follow.
No. Okay, so what I'm saying is, for you to argue that you're not a self-owner, you would contradict yourself.
Contradict your belief, or
yeah,
the facts?
Because you would contradict the facts and the beliefs and your belief.
Well, no. So,
well, you would be contradicting your own beliefs fundamentally.
Yeah, you'd be contradicting a belief, but we just agreed that just because it's a belief doesn't mean it's true, right?
Yes, but
so
contradictions are false. We do know that.
The fact that well, no, but I'm about to give you a point in a sense. You would be contradicting your belief if that was the case, but that wouldn't be.
Yeah, and it would be false.
Well, hold on. So if you agree to me, just because you believe something doesn't make it true. So even though I'm contradicting a belief that I have, that doesn't mean that I actually am in fact a self-owner. I'm just contradicting the belief. I'm not contradicting the fact of self-ownership, right?
Yeah, that's why I said that everyone believes that they're a self-owner, even though even if they were to say that they are not one. That's the argument that I'm making.
We agreed, though, that it doesn't matter if you believe you're a self-owner, right? Because believing you're a self-owner doesn't make it a fact that you're a self-owner.
Yes, but if you were to say that you are not a self-owner or other people are not a self-owner, well, then you would be contradicting yourself.
Well, the only thing you'd be contradicting is your belief, you wouldn't be contradicting the fact that you're a self-owner.
Well, well, of course, the thing about these things, right, is morality is, how do I say this? Give me a sec. So you could say all day, right? I am not a self-owner. I am not a self-owner. We don't believe we're self-owners, right? You could say that all you want, but your actions are telling you another thing.
Correct.
That's all I'm arguing. So all I'm arguing is that everyone believes that they're self-owners when they use their bodies. And any contradiction to that, any argument against that would contradict themselves. They would contradict
Yeah.
themselves.
So my argument is that the only thing you're contradicting would be your belief.
Yeah. So that would make that belief false.
Well, no, that's not true. So
Well,
just because you believe something doesn't make it true, right?
yeah, but if a belief contradicts itself, that makes it false.
No, that's not true.
What? How is that not true?
Because whether or not you believe it, it would be the contradiction, right? So what you're saying is that you think you believe one thing, but you actually believe another. So that would mean that it's false that you actually believe that thing. It doesn't mean that the thing you believe is true or false. You're getting confused.
I'm not making an objective argument. I'm not making an argument that self-ownership is objectively true.
Here, I'll give you I'll give you an example. So let's say that I believe it's not okay to murder,
Yes.
but then I murder someone. I would contradict my belief that it's not okay to murder, correct?
Yeah.
But that wouldn't make murdering okay.
No.
Whether I believe murder is okay or not is irrelevant to whether murder is in fact.
But it
okay
would
or
make
not.
it wrong.
It would make your belief not correspond
It would make
to
your
your other belief,
making it wrong.
But it wouldn't make murder wrong, though.
Well, if you can't propose it without contradicting yourself, then yeah, it has to be wrong.
The only thing you're contradicting is your belief, though. It's not.
Yeah, making it wrong, making your belief wrong.
Well, your belief would contradict itself.
Yeah, but
right?
that's what. Yeah, that's making it wrong. That makes it wrong.
Well, we don't know whether which side of the contradiction is the correct one, right? Because we have two. Every contradiction has.
But
two
we know which one is wrong, right? And so if the one is, we do know which one is wrong because the one that is wrong is contradicting itself. So therefore, its negation must be true.
No, that's actually not what's happening. So you would have the all you know if we came up with a contradiction would be one is true and one is false, right? We don't know which one's true or which one's false. So if you have a contradiction entailed by your belief, that means that either your belief is wrong or the action you're performing would be wrong, but you can't tell. You wouldn't be able to tell what the fact of the matter of the moral proposition.
If you have a true or false statement and one of them is wrong, the other one is what?
I just granted you that.
Okay, so therefore,
we don't know.
So if the other one is if by proposing one argument you're contradicting itself, that would make it false, correct?
No, it would make the argument invalid, but you wouldn't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what the whole argument.
Which of the two premises that are contradicting each other are true, right? Because we just said a belief, just because you believe something doesn't make it true, right?
Well, you could, because human action is what really that shows you what the true preferences of an individual is. Because so if I were to act, people act people don't act what do you call it, randomly. They act with they choose their actions. So because of that, if you were to act, you're basically displaying your preferences through that action, are you not?
I don't really want to get into like praxeology.
Well, it kind of goes into that a little bit.
Like I'm here. I'm going to grant you something so we can further the argument.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll grant you that if we're making a conscious decision, we act in a conscious way, then it implies some sort of belief on our part.
So yes.
Yeah. So, but
okay. So yeah, hold on. It does. That's why I'm bringing it up. So when you look at individuals' actions, you could determine their actions are their true preferences, whereas their words can sometimes be true.
I don't know what that means. What you just
said. I could lie to you through my words, but I can't lie to you about my preferences through my actions, because my actions are my preferences. I don't know what you like. You wouldn't act unless you prefer to do the thing than what you act to do.
Are you saying that
as opposed to the alternative?
You can't act in a way that is meant to deceive someone?
No, that's not what I said at all. What I said is that you cannot act automatically. Well, you can act automatically sometimes, but generally humans don't act automatically. We choose the based on what we want to do based on different variables, right?
Confused
Like
though,
I
'cause
could
you
choose.
said
So, for instance, I could choose A as opposed to B through my actions.
I'm confused though because you said lying is when like you can lie to someone, right? Like I could say a word, I could say something I don't actually believe. Then you're saying I can't lie through an action, but
No,
seems
no,
to
no.
me
What I'm
that
saying is, excuse me, I must have said it incorrectly. What I'm trying to
yeah.
say is that your preferences unlock basically show people, your actions show people your preferences as opposed to the alternative.
So I did go down this with you, but I think it's still irrelevant to what I was saying because to me
It's not
that would be.
irrelevant. I'm going to explain why it's irrelevant. So I just need you.
Can I make my point real quick, and then I'm gonna totally give the floor to you. Okay.
Go ahead.
I just want to be clear on what I'm saying. So uh, to me, all you're showing is that if I believe one thing and then my actions contradict that, showing I believe another thing, and it my belief is in contradiction with itself. What you have not shown is that because all this is within the realm of belief, right? And a belief doesn't make something true. You haven't shown that the thing that you believe is in fact true or
I'm
false
not
because all
arguing
you
whether or
haven't
not it's
shown.
true or false. I've said this from the beginning. The
You
only
are you
argument that I'm making from the beginning is that everyone believes in self ownership, whether they say they believe it or not. If you use your body and then say, you could say, I don't believe in self ownership, right? I could say that, but that's not what you really believe because you're using your body. If you didn't believe you had the right to use your body, you wouldn't use it. That's the
this is
only argument that I'm making. I'm not making
your,
an objective argument here.
your argument for self ownership is that we believe that we are self owners, but you're not arguing that we actually are self owners.
Yeah, that would be me making an objective argument, and I'm not making an objective argument here.
So then why are we debating right now? You agree with me
Agree on you with you on what?
that we are not objectively self owners.
Well, I've never made that claim. I said I believe in self ownership because, in not my only argument from this whole thing was I believe in self ownership, and the reason why I believe self ownership is because to negate that belief would mean that other people would have the right to use your body without your consent when you have not initiated an aggression. I'm not making an objective argument. I do believe that it is objective, but I don't want to go down that road. I don't believe we need to go and make an objective argument to prove that other people believe it and you believe it when I at least I believe that you believe it. I think you believe it, or I know whatever, whatever. And you agree with me. You just don't realize it.
Okay. Well, I think the debate's at least this portion is over then, because I agree that you believe that you are a self owner. So,
But I believe that you believe you're a self owner as well. That's my whole
okay.
argument.
Well, I believe that you believe I'm a self owner too. So I agree with that as well.
Yeah, but do you
So
believe you're a self owner? That's the whole argument. You're arguing that you don't believe that. You're arguing that we are not self owners, are we not?
I don't think we're objectively self owners. No.
Well, I'm not making an objective. We either are self owners or we are not.
It means it's objective then.
So you don't so you don't believe. Do you believe that other people like it would be just for the state to come in and force people to own other people? Would like say it's okay to own other people?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Would you do you, yeah, I said that completely weird. So I'll restate.
That's cool.
Yeah. So what do you think it's okay for the state to say this person owns this other person? Like, do you think that's a just law?
I think it's a just law. No, it wouldn't be just.
Okay, so again, my argument would be, my only argument that I'm making through this whole thing is that you also agree in self-ownership, and the reason why I think that you also agree with self-ownership is because if you didn't believe in self-ownership, you would say that the state would be justified in owning or choosing who owns who.
Yeah, I disagree with that because my view of morality isn't contingent on ownership. Really, to me, that's not how I think about morality. I think about morality in terms of virtue and vice generally. So I wouldn't even appeal to ownership in my justification.
I don't think that really answers my question. My question is more like, of course, you would consider like slavery to be an unjust law.
But
Like
for different reasons.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't. So what would be your
Yeah.
reasoning for that?
I think slavery is degrading to humans, so I think that we should not have a law that imposes something degrading.
So if there was a situation in which it wasn't degrading to own a person, you would say it's okay?
I'd say there's no situation in which that's the case.
But what makes it degrading then?
You're reducing a human to property, which is my same issue with self-ownership.
Okay, so then basically what you're doing is you're saying that it is wrong for another person to claim ownership over another person's body because they are the owner of their body.
I think it's wrong to relate the concept of ownership to people completely.
Yes, I am live streaming. Well, yes, but you, in the dispute over the scarce resource that is your body, you're saying that you ought to have that right in that dispute.
No.
Then who ought to have the right in that dispute?
I don't view my body as a scarce resource. I think we should treat humans as like conscious beings that have autonomy over their selves. And so
I agree.
And so when we reduce them or yourself to property, what you're basically doing is objectifying yourself, which I think is wrong.
Well, we are objects, are we not?
So if I'm against,
we're living objects.
So since I am, since I don't believe you can apply the concept of ownership to anyone, including yourself, that restricts the possibility that someone else can own me, right?
Well, then how do you determine whether what can be owned?
Real quick. So
yeah,
you will agree with me though. If I don't believe humans can be owned at all, whether self or by someone else, then no one can own me, correct?
Yeah, I would consider that to be a very arbitrary standard. Then my next question is, how do we determine?
It doesn't matter if it's arbitrary.
Yeah, so then my next question would be, how do we determine what we can own?
What we can own to me is just determined by, well, remember, I think ownership is just a legal right.
How do you how do we determine what we can own?
Do you mean like how do we determine what legally we have the right to own, or do you mean what's justified?
Justified.
Yeah, so if it doesn't contradict a moral claim, then I would say it's justified in making a property right. If it does, do you want me to say that again more clearly?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. A ownership law would be justified if and only if it doesn't contradict some moral premise that you share with the society. Yeah.
How does owning your own body contradict that?
To me, owning your own body would be treating your body as property. I think treating your body as property objectifies you, and so it degrades you, and so it's immoral.
Are we not objects?
No, I don't think we should treat humans as
objects. We are living objects. That is like a fact, is it not?
What?
We are living objects, are we not?
I don't view the humans as merely objects, no.
Then what is an object?
I think an object is when I use the word objectify, I mean treating human as rather than being a subject, you're treating them as an object in the sense that they are...
you use object in your definition of object.
No, I'm explaining what I mean. Like,
yeah.
You have the concept of a subject, right, and an object. When you're objectifying something, you're not treating someone as a subject, you're treating them as a thing to be acted upon, an object.
Yeah, so what is an object?
A thing to be acted upon.
Can your body be acted upon?
Your body can be acted upon in a sense, but you as a person, as a whole...
Wait. It either is that you can, or it is that you cannot. It is one or the other.
I'm not saying that you can't be acted on. I'm saying I'm not making the descriptive.
Okay, so then wait. It either is. I know, but it either is that you can act on another person's body, or you cannot.
So,
like, do you disagree with that?
prescriptive claim, a descriptive claim. I don't think we should be able to act on other people's bodies.
I know you don't, because you believe in self-ownership.
I don't believe in self-ownership.
Okay, so then you have to explain to me how our body is not an object.
Well, I'm not going to let this pass real quick, because earlier I said my standard precludes all ownership of persons, whether self or otherwise. So I don't have to believe in self-ownership.
Wait. No. You said that we should not be allowed to own ourselves because that's objectifying ourselves. So I'm asking you, what is an object? And then you said it's something that can be acted upon. And then I asked, well, can your body be acted upon? And then you said yes. So therefore, our body's an object.
Oh yeah. Here's the problem though. You are conflating a descriptive claim with a prescriptive claim. Yes, I agree that other people could act upon you in a way that they shouldn't. But that's
Wait. That's all that matters. Wait. Okay, I don't care about.
Should not.
So
that they should not.
Okay, I get that. I get that you don't think it's okay to harm other people. I get it. You believe it's okay. You believe in self-ownership. I get that. Listen, but I'm just messing with you. Listen, I'm messing with you. But listen, I get that you don't believe it's okay to harm other people. We could both agree that we don't. I agree that you don't think it's okay. You don't agree that it's okay to harm other people. I know we don't. I know we both agree with that. What I'm saying is, people can harm other people. Correct? That is a fact. Oh, come on. That's an easy answer.
Sorry, can you ask the question again? Because
people can act on other people's bodies. I could use your body without your consent, right?
I never did. Well, yeah, I never dispute that. I'm making
okay, so therefore, your body is an object, even under your own definition.
My body is an object under my own definition.
Well, yeah, you said that and correct me if I'm incorrect. You said that an object is something that which you can act upon.
Well, no, I said you shouldn't treat someone as a mere object.
Okay, I get it. You don't think we should do that, but I'm not asking whether or not people should do that. I'm asking whether or not people can do that.
Why is it relevant if we can do
because
that?
I'm trying to figure out whether or not object fits your definition of your body. It fits a definition of ownership of object. Because you said an object is something in which you can act upon. And I'm asking you, can your body be acted upon? Obviously, your body can be acted upon.
I'm not making a claim about your body not being acted upon. I'm making a claim that you shouldn't treat your body as those.
No, you're saying that your body is not an object.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying you shouldn't treat your body as an object. That's different.
You shouldn't treat your body as an object?
No, you should treat your body as, well, you should treat yourself, your totality, as a thinking subject.
What do you think? What do you mean by treating your body as an object? What do you mean by that?
A mere object, like as only an object.
So I can't jerk myself off? I can't use my penis as a object?
It's not as a mere object though. You're doing that for satisfaction.
Why not?
You're doing it for like a positive mental state or something like that.
No, I mean it's an object. I'm using it and it is an object, right?
A mere object though.
What do you mean by mere object? What is it? I don't see the distinction. What's mere?
Would be that you're treating it not in a way to further some end in yourself, but only as a means to that end.
Okay, isn't that what people do when they act?
What do you mean?
Acting, when I don't mean to get back into praxeology, but when people act, that is what they are doing. That they're doing it to achieve some better end that they would have otherwise not wanted had they stood in their current condition.
Yeah, working towards the end is right. So your body and yourself are all one thing. So as long as you're using your body in a way that aligns to your ends, there's no problem.
So then give me an example of using your body as an object.
What do you mean?
Give me an example of using your body as a mere object. Like, what can't I do with my own body?
Oh, what can't you do with your own body? I think you can do whatever you want with your own body.
Okay, so then you can use your body as a mere object.
Yeah, but I don't think you should.
I'm not asking you if... I'm asking you... I'm trying to figure out your definition of if your body is an object or not. Is it an object or not?
Okay. Oh, you want to give me an example of an immoral use of me treating my body as a mere object?
Like, do you think I shouldn't be allowed to cut my dick off, or like, should I not be allowed to have sex with women, premaritally? Like, what should I not be allowed to do with my body?
If you're saying an example of an immoral use of treating your body as an object, I would say selling yourself into slavery.
Well, I would argue it's impossible to sell yourself into slavery.
Can you sell yourself to someone?
No, it's impossible.
How is
You
it
want to know
impossible?
why?
Why?
Yeah. So the reason why is because you cannot detach yourself from your body.
Um, you can make a contract with someone so that they own you,
What do you mean by own?
as in they have a legal right to you.
Well, I mean, what does that entail?
That they have control over your actions, and if you go against that, they can take you to court or some such punishment.
So you're not transferring the title of your body, as in like you're not leaving your body and then giving it to that person, are you?
You're giving them the title to your body. That doesn't mean that you're physically leaving your body, though.
Well, ownership is the right to exclude another person from a scarce resource. You can't exclude yourself from your body, or another person can't exclude you from your body, can they?
You think you can own an animal?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you go into that animal's mind and control their bodies?
Well, yeah, no. But the reason why
Okay.
is because
So then you
wait.
can't own-
Hold on. The reason why is because an animal is not a moral object, is not a moral agent.
Well, that doesn't matter. You just said that you can't own yourself because you can't control their physical body, not that.
No, I'm just saying that it's impossible. The reason why it's impossible for someone to sell you or own you is because you cannot detach yourself from your body.
Well, that's the same with an animal, though. You can't take control of their physical bodies.
Yeah, but the thing is, an animal is not a self-owner. They don't own themselves. I can't sell my body because I'm attached to it because I
you're
own
saying-
my body. But the thing is, an
Now you're
animal
saying-
doesn't own its body.
Now you're saying you can't be a self-owner because you are a self-owner.
No.
can't
What
have
I'm
the
saying
power.
is an animal is not a self-owner, whereas humans are self-owners, and there are reasons why. And I'm sure you
Your
agree with this,
argument-
unless you're a
So
vegan.
your argument for why you're a self-owner is that you can't detach yourself from your physical body. When I apply that to an animal, even
Well,
though you
and
can't have-
because you're a moral agent who is able to control your. Well, there's a
also
little bit
have-
more to that.
so you
I
also
was
have to be a moral agent?
no, yeah, because if you could relinquish the ownership of your body to another person if you initiate an aggression against another person. So, for instance, if I punch you in the face, I would not have the right to stop you from punching me back. But if I'm not initiating, if that other person is not initiating an aggression against me, I can't transfer the title of my body to them while I'm still inhabiting it because I'm still in it. But the thing is, the reason why I have self-ownership, the reason why I own my body is because I'm a moral agent. I can argue, I have the ability to argue my case in court. So, like, a lot of people be like, oh, well, animals, don't they have rights? Well, the thing is, they're not moral agents. Animals, say, like, if a dog were to eat a baby or something like that, something rash. You couldn't go sit down with a dog and explain to it what it did wrong and it understand and give a case for what, you know what I mean? It could never understand what it did wrong. But a human, it could understand the things in which it does wrong. You could explain to a human what it's done wrong, and they can reflect on that, whereas animals, they cannot. So therefore, they're not a moral
Okay,
agent.
on that. So the only thing I'm bringing up the animal for,
Yeah.
because I think I somewhat agree with you to a degree.
Mhm.
So the reason
Unless
I
you're
brought up
vegan.
the animal, well, I am vegan, but I still think animals have less moral stats than humans. So
Oh, no.
that's
Oh,
kind
so,
of-
I didn't know that. My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I made an assumption.
You're good. You're good. So that part of the argument to me is kind of inconsequential. What I'm doing right now is saying that you're saying that I cannot sell myself because I cannot leave my physical body. But then when I apply that to an animal, you say, well, you can own an animal, right?
Well, you can
So
you can
then-
only sell things in which you own, correct?
Well, I mean, you can sell things you don't own, but it
Well,
might be unjustified.
Yeah, you can only justly sell things in which you own.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, an animal doesn't own itself.
Well, but this is
So therefore,
so-
you can't, like, it's not the same.
No. So you just assumed your conclusion that we were talking the argument about. Okay, so let me go back through it and then
Go ahead.
tell me where you disagree.
Mm-hmm.
You said you cannot sell yourself to another person as a slave because they cannot ever control your physical body.
Well, wait. I meant it. I mean, you can't. Well, someone could grab you and force you to work for them, right?
They
Someone
can like
can't.
inhabit your mind and control
But
you
yeah, they
from.
can't go into your body and control your body. Exactly what you just said. So because of that, you can't transfer the title of your body to them. You can't give it to them. It's impossible.
Okay. So
And the reason why,
real quick
um,
though, can I run through my argument with you and then you can go off on your explanation? Because otherwise
sure,
we're gonna lose
sure,
the thread of where I'm
sure,
going.
sure,
Okay,
sure. Go ahead.
I appreciate that.
Hmm.
So so you agree? So you saying you cannot sell yourself to someone else because they can't like inhabit your mind and control your body from internally, right?
Well,
So
yeah, you can't
then,
separate yourself from your body.
gotcha.
Hmm.
Then I'm saying, well, if that's the case, if that's the reason why you can't do it, then you could not own animals because they also cannot you cannot separate them, their controlling mind, from their physical body.
No. I'm not saying it's unjustified to sell yourself. I'm saying that it's impossible. If you
So
had the ability to sell yourself, you would have that right. But I'm saying it's impossible.
so I'm saying it's an analogy though, so it should be impossible for the animal too to own them.
If it was a self owner, yes, but it's not a self owner, so it's not the same.
You're saying that it can't be a self owner. You're saying that you can't someone else can't own the human. They have to fundamentally be a self owner because they can't no one else can control their mind. The same case would be with the animal. It would be the same exact case. You
Yeah,
haven't
but
shown
an
why the
animal doesn't
what's
own
this
itself.
you're saying the symmetry breaker for why an animal
No, I'm
is
saying why people own
not a self owner
themselves.
and no, hold on real quick. You're
Hmm.
saying the symmetry breaker for why an animal is a self own or not a self owner and a human is a self owner is that an animal is not a self owner. So your symmetry breaker, your conclusion is exactly what you're trying to prove.
I could give you the reason why I think animals are not self owners. I think I've explained that pretty well.
Um, I think
I'm saying
that
that they can't. I mean, even if they were self owners, they couldn't sell themselves either way because it's impossible. But they're
you should
not
be able
self
to.
owners, so therefore they couldn't. They're not there. They wouldn't be allowed to because they're not
No, but
moral
you should.
agents. Only moral agents have the ability to settle disputes over scarce means. So therefore, they're the only things in which can own things.
You're saying that humans can't sell themselves because that you can't take control of their minds and through their minds their bodies. But the same applies to animals. You can't control an animal's physical
Again, but
body.
an animal is not a self owner. That's the that's the difference. An animal does not own itself.
This is an argument for why they are not a self owner. So
But there's a reason why they're
you're
not a
using
self owner, though. I've explained why they're not a self owner.
yeah, but you're using they're not a self owner to justify why they're not self owners.
No, I've used another argument to justify why they're not a self owner. The reason why they're not a self owner is because they're not a moral agent.
Okay.
Only
Then the
moral
argument
agents
that
can
you
own
okay.
things.
So then the argument that you just used for why a human cannot sell themselves would also not prove that they're self owners, and so they could sell themselves.
If it was possible, yeah, you would have the right to, but I'm saying it's impossible because you can't. As far as I can tell, you can't separate yourself from your body.
But you're just saying that in the case of animals,
Are animals self owners?
you're saying in the case of animals
Are animals self owners?
It doesn't matter. You're
It
not
does
following
matter. That's the whole art, the whole thing. Only moral agents can own things. That's my argument. Only moral agents can own things.
No, that's fine. But
Okay,
that's
so
not
there
what
is a okay. So if you believe that, if you
well,
understand that, then my next question would be,
a different
okay,
argument.
well,
Hold on,
is
no, I
an
don't wanna do
animal
that.
wait, is an animal is a self owner? Yes or no?
Hold on. I
Wait. Answer the question. Yeah, are they a self owner?
can't move past this yet.
No, I will. Hold on. I've been very charitable in answering your question, so I would like you to answer mine.
Okay. So do you mean are they a self owner by your definition or by my definition?
I mean, I would argue they're not self owners at all. But I mean, do you believe they're self owners? Yes, they either believe yes they're self owners or they are not.
I don't think anyone is a self owner.
Is an
Humans
animal
are
a self
animals.
owner? Yes or no?
Humans and animals are both not owners.
Are they moral agents?
I don't believe humans and animals are self owners. No.
That's not that's not an answer to my question. I asked you if they're moral agents.
Animals?
Yes.
I think they're moral patients. I don't think they're moral agents.
Okay, so you should. I didn't ask you if they're moral patients. I asked you if they're moral agents, but you said no, they're not moral agents. So therefore, they don't have in a dispute over scarce means, we're not going to take them into consideration.
No, that's why I said
We don't consider animals to be able to own things, right?
Well, no, that's why I said they're moral patients. So
so animals don't own things.
No, they don't.
Okay, so therefore, they don't own themselves, right?
Well, yeah, I don't believe animals are self-owned. I don't think anyone.
Okay, there you go. That's my whole argument.
Well, that wasn't in contention because I don't believe in self-ownership.
I understand that you would believe in self-ownership, but to say that animals own themselves and humans own themselves is nonsense, even under my ethic. And the reason why that is because animals are not moral agents. The only way you could dispel that argument is by arguing that animals are also moral agents, and therefore they have the right to sell themselves the same way as a human does. So then what is your argument?
Oh, I'm arguing for specific justification for why I could not sell myself is that someone else could not take control over my mind or my brain.
I said that it's impossible to sell yourself because you cannot detach yourself from your body.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay.
Someone cannot own. So hold on, I'm gonna cash that out, and please, will you just let me? Now that I've went through your whole question,
go ahead.
Go through my. Yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. So that means that they cannot own you because they cannot take control over your body, right? In a mental sense.
Yes.
So I'm saying that in the case of animals, you cannot take control over their minds either, correct?
No.
Okay, that's not correct.
Okay. I get what you're trying to say. Well, then we may not. We're taking control over animals. How about that? Maybe not the word ownership in the self-ownership sense. How about that? You're allowed to take control over animals because they're not moral agents.
You can't own them.
Well, I mean, in the sense. Well, the thing is, the only thing that can own things are moral agents, right? So because an animal is not a moral agent, you can't own them because they don't own their body.
You can own them?
Yes, because they don't own their body. Well, in the sense that you could take control over them and do whatever the fuck you want with them. Not in the sense that going into your body and transferring the title of their body to you. In the sense that you're controlling them. But you can do whatever you want to them.
A human can own you. So a human can own you in the same sense.
But it wouldn't be. Okay, so what I'm saying is somebody can take control over your body. We could take a control over an animal's body, but we can't go into its mind and transfer, literally control it, right? But now when you're talking about a human being, right, and another person can take control over another person's body physically. Now whether or not that is right or wrong or justified or not justified would be determined on the person who's the owner of that property. So if they don't want that thing to be controlled, then you would be unjustified in using that thing.
Okay, real quick. I don't have.
But if you do, one last caveat, if that's okay. And also, if you do say, "Hey, I do want you to control me," well, then that's just a normal job.
Okay, so I think we should leave it there because I don't have all night to talk, but I want to talk to you longer and get on maybe some other subjects before we go because I'm enjoying this a lot.
No, that's fine. But okay, that's fine.
Is there another thing you'd like to jump to? I think we can just.
I think you wanted to talk about taxation, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I think with the last argument, I think we kind of got to a point where we can't add anything else to it. So maybe if we can do another topic and then.
That's fine with me. That's fine.
Cool. Yeah, I want to feel like you feel satisfied with where we left off there.
I mean, I'm not going to really feel satisfied because I feel like we disagree. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're not really going to agree. So I mean. Yeah, if you want to move on, that's fine. I
was just gonna repeat the same thing I've been saying in YouTube.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't trying to dismiss what you were saying or anything.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to move on, that's perfectly fine.
Cool. So, do you want to do taxation as theft, or do you want to do something else? Like, what would interest you?
Well, I mean, I feel like you're interviewing me, man. So, I mean, is there something you want to talk to me about something? That's fine.
Yeah, cool. I want to do the taxation as theft then.
That's fine.
Yeah, I want to hear your. Okay, so could you walk me through your justification?
Oh, yeah. So taxation is theft because no matter how you put it, the taxation is the unconsensual taking of another innocent person's property. I consider theft to be the unconsensual taking of another innocent person's property. So therefore, if you take another person's property without their consent, that is a theft. No matter how you put it, taxation is unconsensual. I have no choice but to do it. So therefore, taxation is theft.
So do you think, real quick, I have a few things to ask, but my
Mm-hmm.
first question is, do you think taking something without someone's consent is always wrong?
No. Uh, if you've initiated an aggression against another person, you would have the right to retaliate against that person. In other words, use their body without their consent because they've used your body without your consent.
Gotcha. So we need to refine your definition then, because you think so. Theft is not just taking something without someone's consent. It's
Oh, well, then how about this? I'll change it to
yeah.
taking something from somebody without their consent of an innocent person.
Well, like, could we
That's assuming
clarify
they
that
have not initiated an aggression against another person.
about this? It's justified taking of someone else's property. Justified taking.
Well,
I'm
unjustified
sorry,
would.
unjustified.
Yeah,
Unjustified.
if it would be unjustified, then the question would be like, how do you determine what's justified and unjustified? And how I would determine whether or not it's justified or unjustified um, is if you're initiating an aggression against an innocent person.
Okay, so could we maybe say, yeah, I get what you're saying. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So would you say like taxation is the taking of someone else's property without their consent,
Who is
um,
innocent?
in the exception of uh, cases of self-defense?
Yeah, like we could just use the word like, oh, they're innocent because like innocent assumes that they have not initiated an aggression against another person
Okay,
to warrant that.
that's fine. If you mean by yeah, if by innocent you mean it's not warranted, then yeah, I'll agree
Yeah,
with that.
like yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
let's work with that definition. Okay, cool. So, um, to me, then what you'd have to show is that show that taxation is theft. You would have to show that it's not warranted in you taking their money from them, right? The definition now,
Yeah, like it's not okay. It's unjustified.
because it doesn't have to do with it just being against their consent, though. It's not warranted taking
It's
their
about
property.
whether or not they've done it to an innocent person. Like you're not allowed to violate the consent of innocent people.
It's not warranted, right?
Yeah, like it's unjustified. I don't think it's justified.
Gotcha, gotcha. Cool. I agree with you totally on that. So that's good.
Yeah.
So my first question is: you're saying this in a taxation theft in a legal sense, or a moral sense, or both?
Well, I mean, it's a by definition, by the definition that I set forth, morally, and I would argue. I mean, I think that's how the law should be. That you shouldn't be allowed to violate people's consent, but that is not how the law is currently.
Yeah, I'm just the only reason I'm asking. I'm not trying to catch you or anything. It's just that
Yeah.
we can set aside the legal part because taxation is legal. So we're
Well,
just
I
going
would
to talk
say
about
it's
whether
unjustified to violate the consent of innocent people under any
we're
circumstance.
yeah. So we're only going to be talking about whether it should be legal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're on
Perfect.
the same.
Hmm.
Gotcha. All right. So why do you think it's unjustified taking of another person's property without their consent?
Well, because they're innocent.
But why? Okay, but by innocent you said unwarranted. So why is it unwarranted?
Because they haven't harmed anyone.
They haven't harmed anyone. Okay.
They haven't
So
done anything to warrant it.
they have not done anything to.
Like if you're
Okay.
making the claim that it is warranted, I would have to ask you, why do you believe it's warranted?
I think it's warranted because the taxpayer lives in a society that is structured and makes them prosperous through the taxation, and so they have to give back to that, and because they get more than they get out of it.
So you're making a consequentialist argument, basically, or not a consequential, a utilitarian argument, which is like, oh, if we don't have taxes, we'll be worse off than not having so.
No, it's actually more of a transcendental argument. So I'm saying that the conditions for you to operate in a market are created by the state, and so for you to, so you're essentially they are. warranted in taking your money in order to continue creating those conditions.
Yeah, I would disagree that it is warranted because you are more than. I mean, like I could go up to you and give you $10 for a pair of sneakers, correct?
Uh, yes, you could do that.
Yeah. So then, like, I don't need a. We don't need a state to set those conditions in place. Like, we could do that on our own.
There's a difference between money and sneakers, right? Because money is a fungible good. So it does
They're both
whatever
scarce
amount.
resources.
Well, no, money's not a scarce resource.
Money's not a scarce resource.
Not in our society, no.
Yes, it is. You could have a conflict over a dollar.
That's not what I mean by a scarce resource.
Well, that's what I mean.
Okay, we're gonna put that aside.
That's what I mean.
We're gonna put the scarcity aside. I know because we never got past it. But all
Yeah,
I'm
that's
saying
fine.
is that by a fungible good, it means that if I took $10 from you, put $10 in your account at the same time, there'd be no difference in the good, right? It's just the same $10 is $10.
All right. How about this? How about this? How about this? How about this?
You agree with
Let's
that?
say me. Let's say me and you are on an island, right? And there's no state there, right? Is that possible?
Is that possible? Yeah.
Okay. So I have some coconuts and you have some lobsters. And I say, I want this X amount of lobsters, but you got to trade me this amount of coconuts. Is it possible for me and you to do that trade?
Yeah. So remember the difference between fungible and non-fungible.
I don't think that's really relevant.
It
But
is
go ahead.
because if I give you $10, if I take $10 from you and give you $10 at the same time, there's no harm done because $10 is $10. There's no.
That's
difference
not. Hold on. You're not address. You're not. My point is completely separate from that.
showing that the coconut and the lobsters are not equivalent, right? They're non-fungible.
Can I trade a coconut for a fucking lobster?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
On an island that isn't owned by a state. So therefore, you can have consensual transactions between innocent people without a state.
Don't think I ever denied that.
Okay, so then you don't need a state in order to have a market and all those things and what you believe
No,
that
I'm
you
not
said
saying
earlier.
that. I'm saying insofar as you participate in the market, you are participating in what the state created, is what I'm saying.
Okay, reframe your argument.
That when you participate in
Your
the
mic is
market,
kind of cutting in and out. I don't know. Can you say that again?
oh, sorry, my bad. Insofar as you participate in the markets that the state has created, you are using their, I guess, their infrastructure, and so it's warranted to take your money in order to pay for that.
So basically, what you're saying, and correct me if I'm incorrect, you're benefiting from the things that the state is providing, so therefore you have to chip in.
Unless you want to leave the state, yeah.
Okay, so let's say I steal your car, right? And I'm like, yo, this guy's car is disgusting. So I take it to the car wash, I wash it for you, and then I come back to you. Do you owe me $10?
That's disanalogous. So the analogy would be, let's say that I had a really cool car, and I'm like, you decided to drive it, right? And I said, it's okay. Anyone can drive it as long as they chip in. And then you drove it, and you're like, I'm not paying the gas money even though I used your car. That would be the analogy.
Well, that's assuming that the guy is the owner of the car.
Yeah, the state is the one that created the markets.
I disagree. I don't agree that the state is the owner of the land.
They're the owner of the land. They create all the laws that regulate the markets, and so they are
The only
creator of
person
that.
who could regulate a land would be the owner. The state is not the owner of the land.
Though I'm not sure why you're bringing land into it because I didn't mention land.
Well, the only
why do you think-
person who would have the right to tell you what you can and can't do within a land is the owner. So if you're saying, oh, you're benefiting from what I own, well, the problem is that the state doesn't own that.
Oh, so we're gonna have an issue here, right? Because I think that governments can make laws that regulate what you do on your own land. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, but they're not the owner of the land, so they don't. Why would they have that right?
Because I think that we tacitly consent to a state because it provides protections for us, and so they're able to make regulations of what we do, even on our own property.
What if I don't want those protections, and but I want to stay on my own land without the protection?
And I think you can leave the state, and they should.
No, but wait, I own my land. Why should I leave my land because the state? I don't want the state services.
So if you don't consent to the state and you don't want their protections, I think that you should be able to leave, and maybe we'll even compensate you for leaving, but you shouldn't.
Yeah, but I shouldn't be like. If you mean leave, as in I can not receive their services and not pay for the services, that's perfectly fine. But you can't kick me out my own land. If I want to stay on my own land, that's my land. We're having a debate, so try not to chip in taxation.
You said try not to chip in?
Yes, try not to, bro, because we're having a one-on-one here.
So 1v1.
And
All right.
and I'm also streaming too. I love you, bro. All right, go ahead. So the argument that I'm making is that the state is not the just owner of the land. So therefore, even if you were to argue, oh, well, you have the right to leave. Well, okay, well, I'm choosing not to pay and I don't want to be a part of it anymore. Is that fine?
Hold on. So I'm gonna try to reorient myself because I feel like we kind of got away from the original argument about taxation. But we're talking about whether a state is justified now, correct? Like any state, not just taxation.
I'm sorry, could you say that again? I got distracted.
Oh, I'm saying now we're kind of on the subject of whether you can justify any state, not just taxation, correct? I'm just making sure I'm on the same.
Well, I think that taxation is theft because the state is also unjustified in taking your money because they're illegitimate. It ties in. That all ties into my argument, you know.
Yeah, no, that's I'm just clarifying.
Right? Yeah, you're good. Me too.
Gotcha. So your argument is that taxation is unwarranted because the state itself is like not justified in having control over the area that it's claiming control over. Right?
Yeah. So if I could go deeper, a little deeper, so basically there's only two. Well, I think it's like three ways in which you can come to own what things. Under the libertarian ethic. One is homesteading, which is original appropriation. You know, like I'm on an island, I cut down a stick from a tree. That gives me the claim, the best. And what makes you the owner is whether or not you have the best claim to that thing as opposed to another person. You have a better claim to it than another person. And by using that thing, you're not violating the consent of another person. So when you're on an island and nobody owns anything and you cut down that stick and turn it to a spear, you're not violating anyone's rights by doing that because, well, it's unowned. Nobody owns it. And then there's basically you could produce something, which is, you know, like you spit or, you know, throw up or, you know, something that comes out of your body, producing it. And then there is consensual transaction, whether it be a gift or I give you this for that, or you give me that for this, or I give you this gift. You know what I mean? And so our basic argument is that the state did not come across its land through those means, unless you want to argue that. But it did not. So therefore, it is not the owner. And therefore, any person that does own land in there, they don't have a right to tax.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So I guess my attack here would be, I'm gonna argue that you don't actually believe that, and I'm gonna run you through my reason for why I think that. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I think that you would agree with me that if we had like a group of people, let's go back to Coconut Island actually.
Let's do it.
If a group of people are on Coconut Island and they all consent to make I guess, constitution or a state, right? We'll say the constitution governs what the rules of that state will be. And they'll say, all right, we're all going to agree that we abide by this constitution. We're going to set up a government with like a legislation and executive and all that, blah, 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 blah. And then they're going to abide by the rulings of those people. And they all agree to that contract consensually. You'd agree that that would be a legitimate state, correct?
There's no such thing as a legitimate state. That's just a group of people co-owning a land.
You think co-ownership is
Well,
possible?
there's a difference between collective ownership and co-ownership. You know what I mean? It's like basically a group of people coming together and then they decide to live on a land, but ultimately one person could only have a say over the disputes over what goes to who.
Okay.
So
Even though it had, so you're gonna say this is governance but not a state?
yeah, so there is such thing as governance, but there is a difference between a state. So a state would be an unjustified, or well, actually, I would. So there's a state, criminal organizations, and then there's companies, right? Companies are just people coming together. They own
Well-
assets separately, and then they work together to make a profit together, right? Then there's a state. Well, it was a criminal organization. That's a group of people who violate the consent of other people. Then there's a state, which is a legitimized criminal organization. And the only difference that separates them from like a criminal organization is that people consider it to be legitimate. So because of that, like we differentiate it from a state and a criminal organization, even though it's not much different.
Wait, let me just be clear though, because it seems to me like what you're saying is that states, by your definition, are inherently bad, right? You're just definitionally.
Well, by definition, I mean, it really just depends on what you consider to be bad. I would say it's bad. I would say a state is a criminal organization that is legitimized by the people. Now, whether you think that's good or bad is up to you. I think that's bad, of course, because
But it seems like by calling it criminal, and you said it was unjust, that you're baking into your your.
Well, yeah, but
argument
I've told you what I consider to be a criminal organization.
I don't think you did, but
I did. I told you. I said.
sorry.
I did 3 times. I said three things. I said the first one was a company. That's a group of people who come together to co-own things, or own things to and work together to make a profit, or live together in a society and where people own things. And then there's a criminal organization. A criminal organization is a group of people who violate the consent of other innocent people, whether it be stealing from them, robbing them, taking things, murdering, whatever it is. And then
sorry, my bad. Go.
The last thing was just that a state is just a legitimized criminal organization. That's all.
Apologize for interrupting.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Got a little excited. So, but to me, when you say that you're baking into it that it's unwarranted, right? By calling it criminal.
Well,
'Cause we're-
if
we're
they're
trying-
violating the rights of I mean, yeah, I guess you could say that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a problem, right?
Yeah, but it's true.
Well, but we're trying to debate over whether it's the state is unjust, and you've baked it into your definition. So then it's kind of like, well, that's not really an argument, I guess.
Well, okay. Well, but wait. What you consider to be the violation of a person's rights can be different from me to you. So it's not necessarily circular. So you may consider the state to just be a government, right? Whereas I consider the state to be a state because it violates people's rights. And you don't consider it to be violating people's rights, so therefore you don't consider it to be a state, if that makes sense.
I do. Well, but I do consider it to be a state, but I guess I don't consider it what you consider it to be a state.
I mean, yes, but either way, you understand what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to phrase it in a way that makes sense to me. Like
Yeah.
you're saying that what you think is a state, I don't agree is a state.
Well, that's how libertarians define a state. We define a state, and we also define how we determine whether or not like what is considered to be a rights violation and what is not.
Let me ask you this then: how are we going to? I mean, ultimately, does it come down to we have our own opinions, and then all we can do is compete, or do you think there's something fundamentally that we could argue into, right? Like, can you take premises that I might accept and lead it to the state is unjust? Because I feel like that should be the goal here, right?
Well, you would have to argue, in order for you to argue that the state is just, from my perspective, if you would have to argue that the state got its property through just means.
I gave you an example of that, and then you said it wasn't a state. So it's like it's hard
Wait,
to.
well, that's in it, that example in which you gave is not a state. But again, I could give you you could give me many examples of actual states in the world, and
The reason
you would
call
have to
it-
justify to me, like for instance, do you think the United States is a state, from
Real quick,
or at
one
least
thing
my
too.
definition?
I'm gonna answer that, and then I'm gonna come back to you. But it seems
Yeah.
to me like the only reason you said mine wasn't a state was because it was just and not unjust.
Yes, because we consider states. Us libertarians, we have different definitions for a lot of these words. That's why I explain myself every time I use a different word we use a different definition for.
Yeah, but you're trying to argue that the states are unjust. So then you defining the state as unjust is, I guess, circular or begging the question or something like that.
Yeah, but I've explained why I believe it's unjust too. I didn't just say it's unjust.
Yeah, but then so when I give you an example of a just thing that I would consider a state, you just say that's not a state. So then you're making.
I mean, you could consider it a state all you want, but under our definition, it wouldn't be a state.
It's because you call everything a state unjust.
Well, it's unjust because it's a state. What I'm trying to say is that how we define a state is an unjust criminal organization that is legitimized. Now, what you consider to be unjust or unjust is up to you. Now, if you consider it to be just, well, then that is not a state under our definition.
So yeah.
Now, you could consider it to be a state under your definition, but under our definition, it's not. Do you understand? We are working on two different definitions here. So you're defining a state under your definition, and I'm defining a state under my definition.
But you see why that's a problem, right? So if I said, my definition of a murderer is King Sithis, right? And then you said, well, I'm not a murderer. I don't kill innocent people. And then you say, well, then I'll say, well, my definition is King Sithis is a murderer. So that's
No. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying is that let's say no, that's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying is, let's say I say King Sithis is a murderer, right? And then you say, well, King Sithis is not a murderer. Well, I'm not saying King Sithis is a murderer because I define it so. I'm saying this is how I define what King Sithis is.
if I define you as a murderer, and then I say, well,
You could define anything as whatever you want, so long as you are making clear what your definition for that word is. And I've made very clear how I'm using these words and what I mean by these words.
Okay, no, I agree with that. You're making it clear that you think the state is inherently unjustified, but then when I give an example of governance that's justified, you just say it's not a state, so then you've made it so it's impossible.
Wait, but you just differentiated between a state and a government yourself by differentiating. You just said government and a state. So if you even yourself are differentiating between a governance and a state.
The only reason I differentiate is because your word for the state precludes me using the word state in order to explain.
So I'm not against governance, right? You are perfectly allowed to govern your property as much as you want, right? If you own a property, you could set up a group of people to come on your property, set up stores and this and that, and have it kind of work very similar to what we have now. But the difference is that would be governance. That wouldn't be a state.
Okay, so can we go back? Okay, I think I found an angle where we can agree on. I think so. Let's go back to Coconut Island.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We got the 10 people. They consent to create a governance. Right. You're okay with that word?
Yeah.
So they got a constitution.
So long as there's an owner of the land.
So let's say they have a constitution. They all have their own property, right? They have property laws, etc. And they have a president. One guy gets elected president. He executes the laws. And then you have a majority vote to create laws, right? And they all agree to abide by these laws.
And so long as the owner of that land consents to it, then yeah.
So you think that if they all consent, they sign this contract, and they create this governance, then it's all legit, correct?
So long as the owner of that property is consenting to the transaction, then yes.
Okay. Now let's say they also agree.
But there can only be one owner of that land, or specific parts of that land, or each individual could probably own their own section of the land.
They all own their own land. The government is just how they adjudicate laws, right? They agreed to.
There's governance, yeah, that's perfectly fine. Governance is perfectly fine so long as you're not violating the property rights of another innocent person. You are allowed to tell people what you can or can't do on your own property.
In the contract, though, they all agreed that they would abide by the laws of.
Yeah, that's fine.
So even if they lost, right? Even if they voted against it and they lost, they still have to abide by those laws. That's still just, right?
Well, fundamentally, the owner would have the right to do whatever he wants with his property. He could say, fuck this vote. I'm doing what I want with my property at any point.
He consented to the contract to abide by their laws. So
well, it would depend on if he is, you could use my property, and if I violate this thing, I would have to transfer this title of this thing to you. But fundamentally, you are allowed to withdraw consent from other people.
Basically, a contract would be like if you get a fine if you break this law. Like
you would have to agree to it before you sign it.
Yeah, but I said that though. That's part of the. This is coconut.
I know, but I know, but people act like this is not that big a deal, but it makes all the difference. I promise.
I'm just trying to figure out when it becomes. I want to go through.
What? Oh, I could very easily explain to you when it comes a violation.
I'm not done with my argument though, so please don't interrupt it. Right?
Sorry. Whoa.
So you're good. I gave you your argument. So why don't we go through mine? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but you agree with me that this governance that we created is all legit, right? So, someone breaks that law, they're gonna have to abide by the ruling of that person.
Yeah, so long as they sign the contract.
Vote, and even if they lose the vote, they sign the contract to abide by the winner of the vote, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You could make a contract to work similar to that, yeah.
So then we could also say in the contract that the legislative body is justified in levying a tax on the people in the state, right? Or the governance, sorry.
It wouldn't be a tax. That would just be a fee.
Why would it not be a tax?
Because it's consensual.
But let's say they vote on it. Some people don't consent to the tax, but they lost the vote. They still have to pay the tax since they agreed to abide by the decisions of the legislation, right?
It would depend on the wording of the contract. It would really depend on the wording of the contract.
The wording of the contract is we agree to abide by the rulings of the legislation.
And if you don't do this, what will happen?
You get a fine or something like that.
Oh, well then that's okay, yes. And you signed it? I'm assuming, yeah, that's fine. But the difference...
it would be a tax because it's unconsensual, right? They didn't.
No, it's not. It's not a tax because you're signing it. Look, so that's like saying, hey, here's a contract for me to transfer for $20 to you for you to do this for me, and then after I sign it, I'd be like, I don't really want to give over the $20, even though you did for me what you said you would do in the contract. Well, that money is no longer yours as soon as you got the thing that was provided to you by the contract. You've already consented to give it to that other person as per sorry, I'm kind of losing my train of thought a little bit.
No, you're good.
So like if I say, hey, $20 for you to give me a high five, you know what I'm saying? If I give you this high five and you'll be like, I didn't like that high five. I don't really want to give you that high five. You've already agreed to give me, you've already transferred the title of that money to him as the second that you gave him that high five because you agreed to do that when you signed the contract. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying. Yeah, I think that's what I was saying. Right? Cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was just making it as clear as I could.
But then you're gonna say, so you're saying it's not a tax because it's not unjustified?
Yeah, it's a transaction. It's a transaction because a tax is unconsensual.
Well, we already said unconsensual doesn't matter. We said unwarranted.
Well, unwarranted. Or unwarranted. Yeah, it's unwarranted.
So, but you see how you're baking in. So you're doing. It's not a tax because it's.
Well, there is a difference between a tax and a fee, right? And what differentiates that is because the state is not the reason why these people can do this, right? Is because they are the owners of the properties in which they transact. The state is not the just owner of the property in which it is claiming to own.
They ceded their right to their property to govern their property to the governing body, right? That was
Yeah,
in the
but
contract.
they are they could do that because they are the owners of that land. The people whom they're giving it up to can do that because they are the owners of that land. The state is not the owner of the land. Unless you're going to argue that the state is the owner, and then the only way in which we had then my next question would be is how do we determine ownership?
So let's continue with the hypothetical then. So now let's say all these people have children, right?
Oh my god.
But
I'm going to give you the same answer for every single question that you're going to give. No matter what hypothetical that you give me, I'm going to give you the same answer. So long as the property owner is consenting to the transaction, it is okay. If they are not the property owner, then it is not okay. No matter what hypothetical you give me, that's the answer I'm going to give you.
in this case, the children are now they live on their parents' property. Right?
Yeah, so if the owner is consented to the transaction, it is okay. If the owner did not, then it is not okay.
So the children have to consent then, because the owner's consented.
If the owner says it's okay, if they consented to the transaction, then it is okay. If the owner does not consent to the transaction, then it is not okay.
So all the kids would have to pay that tax despite not consenting to it, because they're not the owners; they live on their parents' property.
Unless the parents transfer the title of the property to them.
Okay, so
Well, it's not a tax for one; it's a fee. They own the property, so therefore you're allowed to choose. You're allowed to charge people to stay there if they want to. That's like saying I own a building, right? And I say, hey, I want you come up to me and be like, hey, I'm gonna pay you $1,000 to stay here for a month. Am I taxing you?
let's just be clear then.
No. Wait. Am I taxing you?
In what case?
Okay, so you weren't listening. So you're saying that it is a tax for a parent to charge somebody rent to stay on their land, or a child to stay.
That's not what I'm saying. That's
Okay.
why.
Okay.
That's why I was trying to clear. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
Okay.
that the government that they set up originally through that contract, right? They agreed to pay a tax. You don't call it a tax, but they agreed to levy a fee on anyone that does business in this society, and you agreed that that was consensual.
It's not a tax.
Oh yeah, but we said levy. I said levy a fee, and you agreed that that was okay because it was consensual, correct?
Yes, so long as what?
So long as the owners agreed, right? So then they
Okay.
all have kids. They all have kids. These kids don't own any of the property. They just live on their parents' property, so they would have to pay that fee as well to do business, correct?
Yeah, if that's what the owner wants.
Okay. So then
You don't have a right to another person's property.
Never said that.
Yeah, so but that's not a tax. Are you arguing that that's a tax?
Well, I'm just arguing that they're unconsensually being levied a fee despite not choosing to be born there, right? And they have no ability to leave because they're on Coconut Island. All the land's parceled out. Now they're forced to pay this levied fee. So then
they could leave, right?
No, they're on Coconut Island.
You can't leave an island?
They don't have any technology for boat building.
You can't swim? That's not my problem.
Okay, cool. So this is all right. So now we're gonna take what you just said.
Wait a minute. So because I'm on an island and I own the whole island, that gives you the right to my property?
I don't have any property.
I own the island.
You're getting away from the hypothetical.
Well, but that's what you're suggesting. You're suggesting that
children.
It doesn't matter how old they are. Whether they're an infant or an 80-year-old. That doesn't matter.
They don't have any property. Their parents own all the property.
Yeah. So again, does that give the another person the right to force the property owner to do what they will with their property?
Well, the kids are property owners, so they have to buy. They're basically
wait. They own the property?
They don't. So you're saying
okay? So then they're not. Okay. So then they don't have a right to that property.
So then they can get charged whatever fees they want, regardless of their consent.
Yes, you can charge people to stay on your land. Yes.
Without their consent.
You don't need a person's consent. Wait a minute. Wait. You don't need a person's consent to wait. You're not. Well, how are you violating their consent by charging them a fee to stay on your land?
Because they didn't choose to be born on that land. Isn't that what your argument is for why
They could leave, right?
they would have to get off the island and go somewhere else? I
Okay,
guess.
so the answer is yes.
So you think?
So no,
okay,
I'm not
so-
forcing them to stay there, right?
Well, so now apply that logic to the state, right? So we're not forcing the ANCAP to stay in the state.
Okay, but the state is not the just owner of the property. I've explained this many times.
That's what you're trying to argue, though. So you
And I've explained why.
You have not.
I have, and okay, so let me go back to what I said earlier then. So
Well,
what I
you
said
said
earlier,
that
the
the
reason why,
state-
hold on.
Define-
You said that I didn't say that, so I'm going to explain it again because I guess you didn't hear me earlier. The only way in which you could justly acquire property is homesteading, producing it, or consensual transaction. The state did not get its property through those means, so therefore they are not the owner. They don't have a greater claim to that property than any other person than the person that already is on it, unless you're going to argue that they do.
I'm not. So this is not addressing what I'm saying.
It is addressing what you're saying. You're saying that it's no different. A property owner is no different. Charging rent is no different than a state charging taxes to a person. I am saying there is a difference, and the one huge difference that there is the one is the owner and the other one is not.
That's not the difference.
It is the difference.
This is a Petersonian dialectic.
So do you believe that the state is the just owner of the land?
I don't believe the state is So whether or not a state's
Wait.
laws.
How we determine whether or not someone has the right to use a property is whether or not they're the just owner of the
It's not about
property, correct?
It's not about the property, right? So the state is not an owner of property necessarily. It's an abstract, I guess, institution and construct.
I agree. So therefore, they don't have the right to tell the property owners within that area what they can do with their property.
This
I
is
agree.
different than your original definition, but I don't agree that having property ownership gives you some kind of entitlement to control.
That is what that is. That is what ownership is. Unless you have a different definition of ownership, and we can maybe talk about that. But
Well, we talked about that. That was our whole first hour and a half of discussion. So I don't know.
so yeah, ownership is based on who has the greatest link to that scarce property. A scarce resource. If you don't agree with that, that would mean that other people who don't have a link to that property or have a lesser link to that property would have the right to violate the property rights of that person or take that thing without their consent when they have not harmed anyone.
Okay. So I'm going to I think I'm going to end it here because I don't think we're getting anywhere else.
No, that's no problem. No problem.
Thank
It
you
was
for
fun.
The last word on that. I think I've made my point through my hypothetical. I think you've made your point. So I had a good debate, though. I think.
It was fun.
So,
Yeah, it was fun. Very cordial,
that.
very chill. You seem like a very mature lad, very smart guy. I disagree with you, of course, but I had a good time. The only thing I'll say is my last word is that self-ownership. Ownership is, the right to control the scarce resources. Scarce resources are objects in which there can be conflicts over. There cannot be conflicts over anything that isn't an object. And whether it's an idea, we could both use the same idea at the same time without excluding the other. So therefore, it is it's not a scarce resource. Your body is a scarce resource, and because of that, there could be conflicts over that thing. So in a conflict, there must be a way to determine who has the right in that dispute. And the libertarian ethic is that the person who has the right in that dispute is the person who inhabits that body because he has a greater claim to that than any other person or a second comer. And that follows the first comer. That comes to the greater claim ethic, basically, which is also comes with the first comer and the exchange of goods and services ethic is all that. It all derives from all that. So because of that, we are the owners of our body. Any person that thinks otherwise would be contradicting themselves because by arguing, they would be using their body. And by using your body, you are basically saying through your actions that I have the right to use my body. So therefore, I am the one who ought to be the one in the dispute to use my body. If you do believe that you are not the owner of your body, then you would have no right to stop another person from attacking you or doing things with your body without your consent when you have not initiated an aggression. And that's the whole argument that I've made thus far. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.
All right, so cool. I say let's end the official portion, and now people can just jump in and keep discussing if they want or whatever.
Wait, you don't have a last word?
Nope, I've spoke for myself throughout the debate. So, yeah.
So Neats, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were trying to explain to him your state, right?
Oh yeah, I was. Well, yeah, basically.
I wish y'all had gotten to the end of that because I love your argument for that.
You just didn't agree that was a state, so.
Well, under my definition, it would be under a state, but under your definition, it would be.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're gonna.
It really just depends on how you define a state, and we just disagree on how we define a state. That's all.
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Semantics.
Ugh.
But I don't think I was being weaselly because I clearly defined what I meant by what I said. So.
I don't think you're being weaselly. I think ultimately my impression is that you're begging the question by baking into your definition that the state is inherently bad. But
well,
no, I don't.
I'll add something to this. Whether the state is bad under my definition or not, it really just depends on whether or not you consider that to be justified.
Yeah.
So if you do consider it to be justified, then you feel like it's a just state. I mean, then you're okay with the state. If you don't consider it to be, then it really just depends on what you consider to be just and just. Now, I've defined what I consider to be just and unjust, and how you determine whether something is just or unjust.
The problem with that is, like, I feel like the United States is just, and I have reasons for that, and I still call it a state. So then, I just don't.
Sorry.
If you're gonna define the state as inherently unjust, then we are fundamentally. To me, by your definition, I would have to say that if I accepted your definition, I would have to say the United States is not a state.
I didn't say that they were inherently unjust. I just said it was a criminal organization.
Well, you said it was inherently unjust, and by saying it's criminal,
well, I believe it's inherently unjust, as personally, but that's not the way. That's not what I used in my definition. That's not the
criminal organization in your definition is always going to be unjust.
Yeah, by my definition, but not every. You don't have to agree with that.
But if I use your definition, then I have to say the United States is not a state because I think it's justified, which is absurd.
You would say you would consider it to be a government.
Think of it like this, Neat. So basically, even if I had it in my definition as it's a criminal organization, basically the reason why it's a criminal organization to sit this is because of certain ethical infractions that the organization commits. Mm-hmm. But if you're under the impression that those particular actions are not unjust, then it wouldn't matter if you called it a criminal organization either, because it would still be a just criminal organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
well,
I think
my definition of criminal is illegal, not necessarily unjust. Yeah.
Yeah, I would consider criminals to be. Yeah, I would. Sorry, Nerlus. I apologize. I was just gonna say that I think that criminals are always unjust. So.
I disagree. So, like, let's say weed is banned in your state. You smoke weed, you get arrested. You're a criminal.
Right, exactly.
Even though I don't think you're doing anything unjust.
Okay. I get what you're saying. Then I would say it's either is unjust or the law could be unjust or unjust. I mean, you could be considered to be a criminal, like by the law, but I wouldn't consider them to be a criminal because to me they haven't violated anyone's rights.
I would still consider them a criminal. I just wouldn't call it. See, this is the weird definition.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why But I'm telling you what I mean by what I say. I'm telling you what I would consider to be a criminal and what I would not consider and why. You know what I mean?
Would you consider redefining it to omit the word criminal and essentially define it by an organization that does such and such action?
Yeah, you could do that. That's fine. Right, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. What I mean, but I'm telling you. Sorry, I'm telling you guys what I mean by what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I think I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Mm-hmm.
No one's calling you like bad faith or anything. We're just saying I guess riffing on the concept, right?
That's fine.
So my question to you then is what action specifically is the state doing that is making it unjust or criminal?
Well, it's not the owners of the land. So therefore, it doesn't have a like. So for instance, if you owned a property, could I tell you don't put that garden gnome there? Well, I mean, I could tell you, but would I be justified in telling you that?
to not put a garden in my property.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna answer it, and then I'm gonna try to. Then I'll let you go off, and I want to explain why this isn't analogous, because you kind of keep doing this where you're throwing me a hypothetical and you want me to answer it, even though it doesn't have anything to do with.
It is analogous. I could explain why it's analogous.
It's not.
But you would have to
like
answer the question first. I mean, unless you want me to ask you why. I mean, you want to tell you why first.
I'm gonna say it's unjust, but what I'm saying is that just because you can find a specific instance of this being immoral doesn't mean it's immoral in every instance, right?
Okay, so then give me. Then I would, and the next question, of course, would be, give me an instance where it is moral.
State.
So what makes it moral?
Because you are benefiting from the state, and though you are only existing because of the state.
So because I'm benefiting from the state, and I only exist because of the state, I have to chip in.
Yes.
So let's say my mother stole my dirty car and took it for a wash, and then gave it back to me. Do I owe her $20?
No, this isn't analogous, because the
What do you mean?
analogy would be you taking your mother's car and using it to make money, and then saying your mother being like, "You took my car, and then you owe me for the gas you used." And you're
It's
like,
not.
no.
That's not analogous, and you want to know why? Because the state doesn't own the land.
It's not about owning the land, though. You're using their markets, their laws, their
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I'm using.
all of-
They're not the owner. They don't have a right to tell me what to do.
Not true. It's just kind of not true. No. So markets are what a market is a system of the exchange of private property. It's not their markets.
Mhm.
They might provide.
They created the system. They created the infrastructure.
Sorry, I'm gonna mute.
The system. No, so the system is created by the people who are to exchange. Now, they might have created a sort of overarching system that's like, well, we're not going to fuck with you, right? And we're going to protect your property rights. That's not them creating the market. No. That's not what a market is.
A market is a regulated like transactional between two people or more.
Yeah. So two or more people building out a system of the exchange of private property. That's the market.
If you're in a state and you engage with those people, you're engaging in the market the state created, because they create the regulations around who.
Well, I don't think a state could create anything, because a state is not a person. Only people can create things.
We're not going to go there, because that's a whole.
No, but it's relevant because you're saying that a state created the market, but a state can't create anything. It's not a person.
This is a metaphysical claim now, so I'm not going to go.
Sure. I see.
Okay. All right.
Kind of irrelevant to our conversation, because. Okay, if you say a state is not a person, therefore can't create things, then you definitionally have shown the state can't do anything.
I think there's an ontology. No, I think there's an ontology to both a market and a state. So, like, the ontology of the state would be that group of people who are organized to coordinate, like, governmental procedures, something like this. Now, the market, though, has a totally different ontology, although they can intertwine. Like, the market is those active agents in the organizations that are exchanging private property. What the state is doing is protecting your private property rights, and perhaps even coming in and regulating here and there. But what the ontology of the market is actually like acting agents, humans.
So here's where we're gonna disagree. One, your ontology to me is very incomplete, and sure. I guess we discussed that before, and that might be the less interesting conversation now, because I think we can have the conversation without discussing the ontology, right? And two, your view of what was I gonna say? Sorry, what was the second part of what you said? Because I totally lost my train of thought on the second.
Well, so basically, ontology of the state is like group of people who perhaps protect the ability for people who constitute the market to engage.
I remember what I was gonna say now. So rights. We disagree on what rights are because I don't think the state just enforces your rights. I think the state creates your rights because they have rights when there's someone to take them what you have away. So the state, we have rights under a state because there is someone to take our rights away from in our group, and so the state gives us protection against people taking that thing.
Whereas I think the state periodically stops violating your rights. Right, so like whenever we had slavery, it's like the state created this paradigm wherein slaves didn't have rights, right?
They create the rights and the slavery, right? They create both. Yeah.
Well, when they just pull back, that's just them stopping violating. That's it. They're not creating the rights, right? They're just recognizing them.
No, they extended the rights to slaves.
Well, a right isn't a physical object in which you could give to people. It is something in which you recognize. That's something that he's trying to say.
I don't. You guys. So I don't.
Wait, you disagree with that?
No, rights are legal constructs to me. Morals. Oh my God, this fucking girl.
I was wondering what that was. I was like, what?
He's violating my rights.
I know,
He so is.
Oh my God. So basically, what I'm saying is that rights to me are legal constructs. They agree to protect you from other people transgressing against you by agency. If they don't have an agency that gives you those rights or to protect you, you don't have rights. They're a legal fiction. Now, what you guys are talking about to me is a moral principle, and I do agree that we have moral principles as to what we can and can't do, but I don't think we have any rights that follow from those moral principles. Rights are just a heuristic in order to.
I feel like we should be able to unify these positions. I feel like there's something happening to me right now that I'm like, I don't think that we're actually talking about things that are mutually exclusive.
Might be true, yeah. I think a lot of it's getting lost in the semantics, so let's go through that, yeah.
Like, so for example, I think there is a legal constructivist aspect to rights as they are employed in law, right? But like what people are talking about with their rights outside of law, like just in the ethical paradigm, like what you were just talking about, we're essentially talking about those things which we are entitled to do or not to do, right? And if the state legally constructs a system of recognition of what we can and cannot do, then yeah, there is a constructivist element to it. But it's not like it can be reduced to that constructivist element. Like, there's a reason why people fight for their rights and then have the states ultimately recognize them after a long series of battles with them. It's like there is a collective understanding of what I can and cannot do. And there's a collective... Yeah, go on.
Oh, no, sorry, I'm interrupting. Go ahead.
Then there's a collective understanding of what the state can and cannot do, right? And so it's constructivist on both fronts. But it's trying to reference things that are like factual about reality and about humans. Like, I don't think. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, it's trying to reference the moral facts. I think.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
That's why I call it a heuristic, right? So when you say you have a property right, for instance, so this might say like, okay, this is going to be derived from some. I mean, I'm not sure because we've gone back and forth with it, but it's derived from some objective criteria. And it might be like the homestead principle, first comer, or consensual transfer, things like that, right? That would make you an owner rightfully. What I'm saying is that what those.
Do you mind if I say something real quick? I didn't say that is necessarily. I mean, I personally think it's objective, but it doesn't necessarily. You don't have to argue that. I'm not arguing that. You don't need to make that argument. All I'm arguing is that if you don't believe that, that would basically mean that other people would have the right to use your body without your consent, and I'm sure you don't want that. Go ahead.
That's fine, yeah. I don't want to put any words in your mouth, so yeah.
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. So, but what I'm saying is that, so the specific property right, though, to me, could differ between that stuff, as long as you're true to the principle of what you're trying to... the moral principle that you're trying to preserve in your rights. The specific right, I mean, it could manifest itself in several ways, right? So I think, like, if a society wanted to have personal property, but not private property in all the senses that we do now, they might still be legitimate in doing that.
Who, me? Oh, I wasn't listening. What you say?
No.
I thought you were talking to Neuralist. Neuralist?
Yeah. I don't know what happened to him.
Sorry, I was just putting my clothes in the dryer. So I don't know if I understood that quite well. I mean, I was listening, but I don't know if I really understood it. So I think you're saying that although that might be what we're trying to do, in effect, when doing that, that doesn't mean that if another society says we're going to do it in another way, that's illegitimate or something.
I'm
Even
saying
if it
that
violates that core principle that we're fighting for.
no. What I'm saying is that there might be moral principles that we're abiding by that societies preserve in different ways, even though they're trying to protect the same core principle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's what I'm
100%.
saying.
Yeah, 100%. You're right, because right, even at the founding of the nation, there was these ideas of like, yeah, we believe in private property, but wait a second, only for landed gentry.
Exactly.
But they are trying to preserve private property, right?
Everyone believes in private property, whether they say they do or they don't.
Yeah, and
Fundamentally.
nobody demonstrated this quite as well as the blacks and the women.
I don't believe
this
in
country.
private.
What does that have? What does that have anything to do with this?
There was a time when what was being protected in this country was, again, private property for the landed gentry, not for the blacks, not for the women. Right? It's a paradigm that's totally shifted. Even though at the core, was to Nietzsche's point, at the core of the original formulation was the protection of private property.
I think like a state could be in my conception, right? Could base private property solely off of like, inheritance and homesteading and things like that. To me, that might not encapsulate the full principle that you're trying to preserve with the morality.
Sure, but the hope is to finally get enough clarity on the subject to do it as best we can.
Yeah, so to me, it would be legitimate, even though I might agree that we should have ownership of some things, right? Maybe personal property. That doesn't follow that we must believe that all things should be up for ownership in this private way, right?
Sure, I think that this would kind of, in this case, like if you were going to do that, there are other factors like other potential violations that you would simply have to avoid. It's kind of like with the Coconut Island hypothetical from earlier. It's like, as long as you have consent, right, across people wanting to abide in this paradigm, that's going to always be cool. Like, it'd be like having a totally voluntary communist state. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
It's not just voluntary. I think there's some things. So, for example, there's certain public lands, right, that the state protects. Whether or not you think the state should protect them is going to be, I guess, controversial for you guys. My point is that.
Hell yeah.
My point is that when you live with other people, you have to adjudicate that in some way, and just using this like first comer transfer of ownership principle leads to amoral consequences as well. So I don't think it's the only way that you can organize a society.
Well, does it lead to them in a direct kind of way? Like if I said, hey man, the first comer principles derive from the fact that you are the first comer to your own body and therefore have the highest claim to it, and therefore that sort of extends into other stuff, like if you're a first comer to some new homestead that you're taking
I think it
care
does.
of. How does that lead to direct? I can see other people stepping in and creating conflict, and if there's no state to protect you between those two people, yeah, I mean, like that's definitely a consequence. But I don't think it's a consequence of the first comer principle or any of the basic principles. It'd be more like a direct. It'd be more like a direct conclusion from the no state principle, like, or no system of protection. Does that kind of make sense?
I mean,
I don't see where you get to amorality through the homecomer print or the homestead first comer print. I just don't see. I don't see.
I think I would argue that going against it would make you look pretty fucked up in many situations.
Yeah, like if you actively create conflict in those situations, yeah, you're kind of. I think we'd all like recognize it that you're kind of.
Homestead principle would lead to violations of Locke's proviso, so there wouldn't be good enough left over for future generations.
Yeah, we don't. Well, we don't. Well, we only list. We only support the first section of that quote. The later section where he said, "Hey, there needs to be enough for everyone else." Yeah, we don't agree with that. It doesn't matter.
Well, no, but that's the problem. You still have to contend with it, though. So now
It doesn't
that's why I'm
matter.
saying-
If you own
It does
something, that's
matter.
yours.
Yeah, I think
No,
it kind
but
of
it
matters,
does
bro.
matter
I
because
think
now
it
you
kind of matters.
condemned.
No, it
Fuck
don't.
them
Yeah.
kids.
If it's mine, it's mine, and I don't give a shit if somebody tries to come around. I don't care if you're poor. I'm not paying more for the lazy poor.
About being poor though, it's so you've now condemned future people to be essentially.
No, you haven't. Because I could listen to me. People die, right? And then when I die, my property will go to the commons, and whoever wants it, they could take it.
Oh, don't you believe in inheritance?
Yeah, maybe unless I give it to somebody.
Yeah, if I leave it to my kid or some shit.
Yeah, but
Well,
that's
hold on,
still wait. That's still passing
wait.
it down to somebody.
Let's
Neat,
let's
Neat,
get
you're
back to
forgetting
Teresa.
property rights are conflict enforcing norms. They want a conflict between them and the have-nots.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I don't think so, but that is kind of funny.
Listen,
I
bro.
see what you're saying.
For you to say, oh,
Wait, let's go back to the proviso because that's so. It's
sure,
it's
go ahead.
actually very-
I was chiming in, but I'll shut
Garrett,
up.
do you agree with the proviso or not?
I really kind of do because, like, yes, there needs to be enough to go around for everybody. But here's the thing. Here's what I don't agree with. I don't agree
disagree
that we
with
can
that.
ever act. Well, check it out though. Well,
Sorry,
you're
sorry,
gonna
go
have
ahead.
to agree because, like, if you don't agree with it, then that means like the removal of resources from everybody on the planet is just like totally cool. It's like, what if it's a resource?
Go
that
to
is
another planet.
non-renewable? Go to
Wait, but what do you
But,
mean?
hold on.
That's not a ridiculous
Wait,
thing to say.
here's
It's
my-
true, though.
wait,
It's
wait,
true.
Wait, though. Here's my argument against giving too much quarter to the proviso, and that is that I find it outlandish to conclude that we could ever, any one of us, any group of us, really consolidate resources in a way that there isn't still abundance out there for somebody. Like,
Wait.
Yeah,
But how do you determine what is too much?
I think it's something.
There's
like
no objective way to do that. That's completely arbitrary.
I think so, but here's the thing. I think what they would generally say is something akin to.
What do you say?
Well, if you're, like I just said, I don't think it's actually possible. I don't think you can consolidate resources like that.
No, it's impossible.
We have the largest.
Bill Gates denier.
Oh, Bill Gates, dude, you can still buy property and houses.
Bro, I could buy land.
Yeah, you can still buy land, dude. It's all
I-
over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As a matter
shitty
of fact,
land.
check this out. Says who?
Says me. I've seen where prime land is and what it costs. You can't afford
Yeah,
that
but
shit.
actually,
sorry,
we believe
all
in
the
the
prime land's
subjective
gone.
theory of value. Okay, sir. We believe in the subjective theory. Your one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah, retards exist. What about them?
Well, I'm live on the internet though, so just.
Oh shit, my bad.
You're good. You're good.
Hey, say the N word real quick.
Whoa! chill.
I forgot.
Also, that's against the server rules anyway. So.
So,
Yeah,
alright,
my bad.
I got
No, you're
distracted
good.
for a second.
No, not that.
Yeah,
The N-word one.
Oh yeah.
Back
I
to
got
the proviso.
distracted for 1 second. Could you just say what you said about the proviso one more time?
So the proviso for me, the reason I think it's definitely something that should be taken into consideration, especially if you're in like sort of cramped quarters or something like this. But the thing about it is I find the provisos a bit outlandish in the sense that there are so much abundance of resources that the idea that you could ever actually consolidate resources on that level is it's not.
Dude, we have a whole galaxy of resources. This whole idea that like there's not enough to go in around. Like what?
It's way even better. You can literally fit every human on the planet in the state of California.
Yeah,
Well,
dude. We are underpopulated right now. In fact, I think we don't have enough people, and I think we need more people.
Okay, so Garrett, I want to riff off what you said though, real quick.
Word.
Oh,
Word.
because to me, maybe your guys' ethic would preclude this specific issue, and tell me if I'm wrong. But you believe that you can buy land that you aren't like physically adjacent to, right?
Yeah.
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 You mean
You
like,
don't need to,
what's
you don't need to
what's
have
the
to
word
fit-
for that? Absentee property? Yeah, that's
Yeah. What if I
You don't
just
have,
want to?
like-
What if I just want to look at it?
Yeah, so you don't have a improvement proviso like some people do. Making sure.
No. No. That's your property.
So here's the thing. So then it's totally reasonable that someone could own all the land in a given area so that no one else could use it because you have that.
No. What we're saying is that we have a whole galaxy of resources. The whole idea that someone's going to own the whole world and there will be no land for you to go is
Yeah, I
ridiculous.
mean-
No, but that's not what the proviso is saying.
No, I get that. I get.
I'm going to talk about about the enclosure in England. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's literally a project that's still going on.
Yeah. So what happened?
Well,
Well-
I'm not familiar with that.
Also, basically, I
For
think it
Gary,
was particularly during the years from Charlemagne up to
No, there's the Enclosure
30
Act
years
in
world.
like
Yeah.
18.
Then we get the
or-
Enclosure Act. But yeah, but it's a process and a project that had been going on for a long time. But yes, you finally get the actual Enclosure Act, and it's basically saying the state, or whatever constituted the state back then, has now like full control over these particular lands.
No,
and
that's
peasantry-
no, opposite. They turned common lands into private property. They sold it to businesses.
Good. That's good. That's good.
So then,
No. They took what was considered the commons and provisioned that off into what could be bought or sold. But what
Yes,
really
they
actually
turned- they
took place
turned it
is
into-
that the
Oh, that's
state
not good.
just came. Yeah, but the state just came in and said, we are now controller and owner of this land. Peasants now have no say.
they sold
There is
it.
no commons. And then
Oh, well, they don't have a right to sell it. It's not their land.
Exactly. That's the big problem. Is this is the state doing statist bullshit that people like me and Sithis here fucking despise.
Yeah. That's
So-
why we
but
don't
wait.
pay more for the lazy poor.
Exactly.
But you guys don't believe in commons either. Well, maybe Garrett
That's
does.
not
I don't
true.
think Sid
That's
does.
not true.
I don't believe. What do you mean by? It depends on what you mean by commons.
The common ownership. Anyone can use.
Whoa.
Well, I mean, anyone could use any physical object. It depends on.
No,
But we're talking. Well,
legally-
listen.
Wait,
Fundament.
it's not that.
Hold on. Let me. I got this. So fundamentally, what we're trying to say is that only one person, when it comes to exclusive objects, physical, scarce objects, there could only be one person who could have the right to exclude the other person. That's the only thing we're saying.
True,
What about
but
a
check
lake?
this out. Well, hold
Guys,
on, honey.
you're
Let's get to that here in a
no,
second.
but hold on, no, because I want to know if he before we even move on, because I don't think Silas agrees people can own things in common, which is what I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
Well,
If you mean by collective
Oh,
ownership,
hold on,
no.
hold on. Yeah, okay. So if you agree with that, if there was they don't want it in common, then the government did not steal anything from them because they never owned it.
Well, the
Wait,
people
hold
who
on.
run the
Guys,
state,
for
who
fuck's
are
sake, let me
sorry.
clear this up. God
Go
damn
ahead.
No,
it.
because
Let me clear this up, dude, please. Look, what I'm saying by commons, whenever I say, yes, I agree to this, look, let me give you an example. I live out in Kentucky, right? Eastern Kentucky. I've given you this example, and I think I've given it to Hounding numerous times. I can go to places, I can literally walk to places where I'm at, where I can, for as far as the eye can see totally unoccupied land.
Oh, you're talking about unowned land when you say the
I'm talking
commons.
about land that is accessible to the commoner, that he shouldn't have to go through a mediator like a private owner or the state to go and occupy, because
Well,
it's
but what if
unowned land.
somebody owns
my
the land?
That's different. In that case, you're
Okay, so
talking
then
about private.
so then you mean unowned land when you say commons.
Yes,
Gary,
you're not-
accessible,
Gary, you're not-
unowned,
not
accessible to the
addressing-
commoner, unowned land. That's
Gotcha,
what I'm
no
gotcha.
talking
longer.
about.
you're
No,
no
I was just
longer-
clarifying. That's all.
What do you
no
need?
longer-
Nate?
You're no longer addressing what I was talking about, which was the Enclosure Act, though. So do you agree land can be owned in common?
I don't think it can be owned in common. I think it can be accessed by anyone who is not currently the owner.
The
What he
land, the common-
means by commons, what Nietzsche's trying to say is that do you believe in collective ownership?
But that's not what the commons is. The commons, as like properly defined, is like just the accessible to all members of society resources.
Yeah,
It's not-
what
it's
yeah.
common
It's a different.
ownership.
We're using it in a different way. That's
No,
what
but
he's
you're
trying to
saying,
say.
Like-
but you're saying that they don't own it then, right? You're saying they did not own the
Well,
commons.
nobody owns it. Nobody owns the
Okay.
commons.
Yeah, bro, you're
If they
so
didn't
missing
own
what I'm
it,
saying.
then the state didn't
No,
steal
no,
it. That's my
bro.
point.
That's
Yep.
not a good point. Let me try to explain
It
why.
is a good point.
Wait, wait,
It's
wait.
not a good point.
They
I can tell
didn't.
you
Did the
why.
state
It is
homestead? Wait.
No,
Did the
alright,
state
Wait, if you
homestead the
come
land?
up on me, I'm gonna ask Hounding. Hounding, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
already
no,
see what
I
you're saying.
understand what you're saying, but I think what they mean to say is that it doesn't matter, not that you're wrong, but they keep saying you're wrong.
It's not. No, listen. I can
He's wrong!
Clear it up. It's not even like that. Let me clear it up. Okay. So in the case of enclosure, what the state did was come and tell to the peasants the lands that they were literally occupying as accessible by everybody are now owned by us, the state. That's different from me saying what I. That's different from me.
You said that they didn't own it, so what they
Slight-
homestead.
Slight point of contention:
No,
the
if they're
commons, as
already
understood in
accessed.
English, they did not homestead that land.
We do
They were
not give a
using
shit
it for
about the
grazing.
dictionary.
They used it for growing
Crops and grazing, yeah, but they weren't
Yeah.
homesteading it in the traditional
but
sense.
If they are actually
Anyone
grazing
can
it,
use
The state did not homestead the land, so therefore they do not have a right to sell it. It's not their land.
They technically did because you didn't think anyone owned it.
No, they
were the
didn't.
first settlers.
So they went over there and they'd be like, you know what, guys? I'm going to set up a barrier to let people out of my property. Somebody.
You can't have common ownership.
No! Not
You
collective.
can't have
If you mean
common
common ownership,
ownership.
you mean collective
The
ownership?
commons
No.
necessarily would not have been owned by anyone under your guys' definition. The question is whether or not the state took the steps to homestead it prior to selling it. That's really the only question we had here. I don't know
And
what
they did
England
not.
did.
They did
Well,
not do that.
I
They
don't know
did
what England
not.
did or did not do.
They did not.
They definitely didn't
The
do that.
state
They
did
definitely didn't.
not.
Maybe.
I can guarantee you they did not, Hounding. I can guarantee you.
Well, I mean, when was the Enclosure Act done? We can get into this.
It's like
30 years war.
Well, I don't actually know anything
Let
they're
me look at
talking
it. It's been a
about.
while.
It was
1773.
Yeah.
Are you guys talking about donut-shaped land?
But here's the thing, though. The enclosure, yes, they had the act in 1773, but, like, this was a project that had been growing and growing and growing in different ways for, like, a long, long time.
Well, it looks like there was private enclosureship before Parliament did it too. Where it looks like proprietors would come together and like fence off parts of the commons and be like, "This is ours now, fuck you."
Which we would say as the ANCAP crowd, we would say this is proper.
Based.
This is proper property.
Yeah, that's
Now,
their property.
When a group of people says, "Hey, we're partitioning off this whole group of,
Okay,
of
so if you
land,"
think they did, then you're saying the state can also. Why can't the state do it then? It seems like they're just homesteading it too.
Because then they wouldn't be a state.
Because you're literally taking it from people who are already accessing it.
So
for
did the
usage,
private
dude.
people. So did the private.
Because they didn't homestead it.
That's what I'm saying. So the state
Well,
took
no,
it from. It's the same case. Whether it's
They
public
didn't
or private.
homestead it, so they can't take it.
So you guys are making so many contradictions right now.
It's not contradictory.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so
Promise you.
well, wait a minute. Okay, so let's say we have a commons in I don't know 1500 England, whatever, and there's 10 farmers who bring their 10 herds to graze this field or whatever regularly, and 4 of the farmers get together and they're like, no, we're gonna take 70% of this shit and enclose it.
So it depends. So, like, I see what you're asking, County. So, like, so if you take the 14 farmers, right? They're already on the land. They're accessing it.
They're all using the same like fields, but then like
Okay.
like half of them get together and like, fuck you, we're taking 70% of it for ourselves.
Yeah, see,
The
that's
first
the problem.
comer would be the owner.
No, that would actually be a problem because all 14 people are accessing this land. Now,
I mean, they can't do it all at the same time.
Well,
Right,
you
they
can
can't
mix.
do all-
I mean, you can mix herds. Like that's a thing people do.
Yeah.
Well, whichever
That's what
one
they
the
do.
This is
first.
what branding is for.
Listen,
But this
obviously
literally
it
is-
wouldn't be easy to
clearly
decipher
what they
this,
did.
but fundamentally, it wouldn't be easy to decipher a situation like that, right? Obviously, but fundamentally, the first person to come to that land and set that land up would be the owner, and any subsequent person would not be the owner. Now, how we figured out amongst a situation where 14 people came in and then they forgot about it later or whatever. Now that's a different story.
It's even more complicated because usually these are like family farms and herds going back.
But whether,
hundreds of years doing this. Kind
no,
of shit.
I understand. But whether or not something's complicated to decipher does not change the fact that the first comer is the owner.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, but
I don't.
Yeah, but here's the thing: what the Enclosure Act did.
It's a longer
This is the
conversation.
big. This is why the Enclosure Act was evil. There were already massive, many groups of families that were already, even if they weren't homestead, they were using that land. When the state came in and passed bills, they passed bills saying, "Well, fuck you. It doesn't matter if you've been using that land. We own it now, and we're selling it off to the highest bidder." That's the problem. It's not like 14 of those people in that family said, "Hey, this section that we've been really using here lately, this is now ours. You have no access to it." It's not the same fucking thing, dude.
I mean, no. I understand why you guys have a problem with that more so than the prior enclosure, even if it doesn't quite meet to your like standards, considering it's also the weird shit going on there. Although you know my response is that this would be completely fine in my eyes.
I'm sure you would, you hounder.
I am.
If you're having an issue with a private enclosure, then it's consistent with you having an issue with the public enclosure. I think Garrett, you don't have an issue with co-ownership in the way King Sithis does. So I don't think you're really in contradiction. I think King Sithis, you're the only one that has a problem because you think these people didn't ever own it to begin with. So anyone was able to homestead that land because there was no owner.
Yeah, and then the first comer would be the owner.
The first comer would be the owner, right? Whether that's the state or
And
whether
this,
that's
No,
exactly. This is where you're.
A state is not a person. A state is only a person, individual person could own it.
the person
When you're
calling
saying a
himself
state,
the
you're talking about a group of people. I don't believe a
so the
group of
person
people could
calling
own
himself
something.
the state aka the king.
If it's an individual person calling,
yeah,
it,
wait
you
a minute.
could
There's a king. There's a king
Yeah.
here, so the king owns all the land.
Yeah, so
king
you
was-
could call yourself whatever you want. If you're an individual
owns-
person and you're a first comer to the good or the land, then you're the owner.
Okay, so you think the king legitimately took that land then?
I mean, you could call him whatever you want. If he's a first comer, yes.
Okay. So
I mean, I could call. I listen. If I'm the first comer to an island, I could call myself the king of it. There's nothing wrong with that.
All right, there you go.
But that doesn't make you like a legitimate king, like an actual king.
Here's the real question: How many wives did the king own thanks to Prima Nocta?
Women don't lack the ability to argue correctly, so therefore they can be owned. They could be owned by. Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
Okay. I want to do. I mean, I'll leave in a second, but I would like you. I'll be back, but I would like Hounding to explain to Lego what happened with the moderator.
What?
I want,
I missed so much of that. I could try.
you were there, but I want.
It seemed like he got a little bit frustrated with Mass. I forgot exactly what they were talking about, but he got a little bit frustrated. He was like, "Fuck this, I'm out of here." Kind of like. Well, he didn't say that exactly, but.
I think you should wait till you get back because I missed a bunch of that. I was like in and out of this call a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He asked me a very specific question, and I answered it, and he said I wasn't answering it. Do you guys remember that?
No, I do not.
That's
I
why
was in that
generally.
a lot.
This is why generally I don't. Well, actually, that part wasn't streamed. Unfortunately, I started like when we started debating. Anyways, what was I gonna say? Oh, that's why generally I don't do like super structured debates. I generally just like to have an open discussion with another
Wait.
person.
You record that
Yeah,
part?
me too.
You said
I
this?
love that too.
You
He said
recorded
he did not.
No, I did not. Unfortunately, I started recording when we started like debating.
it? He asked me, what do I mean by ownership, and then I told him, and then he said I wasn't answering his question. Remember?
Well, you didn't answer it in the way that he liked. That's really what it was.
I answered it. You agree that I answered it, right?
Yes, you answered it. You just didn't answer it in the way he liked.
Is he an ANCAP too?
Yeah.
No.
Was he trying to make it so that I had the ANCAP definition or something? Is that the
I don't know what he was doing. I think he was just trying to. I think if I could be charitable to him, I think what he was trying to do is he was just trying to get us to get a definition in which we could both agree on, and then we could have a structured debate in the way that he normally does. And then I think in trying to get the answer out of you, he got frustrated because he didn't like the answer that you were giving, and then he kind of just like, fuck this, I'm out.
Okay, I just want to know if I think I was being polite in answering the question. I don't know if there was reason to get mad or anything.
I mean,
I think
if your
he just
demeanor
got. I
was
don't think he was
anything like it is
mad. I think he
now.
just got annoyed. Or
He
like
also
he just.
took the moderator. He took the moderator from me too.
Oh well. I
Damn, bro.
I can't speak to that.
What did
Taking
you
away
say
the
to him?
Janny's
I'm not. Am I a moderator still? Let me see.
Yeah.
I am. Ah!
Hey,
Sorry.
mute cucking real quick.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't. No.
Well, here's the other problem with it is that he said that I fucked up because I made it a thread, but he specifically told me. I said that we had a debate that he told me to make a thread and gave me the power to do it. And then I made it, and then he said, "Oh, why did you do that? You didn't do it properly." He's the one that
What?
gave me the power to make that thread.
What did you say that pissed him off?
He was asking about ownership, the definition, and
What's your definition?
I said the right. It's a right to exclude, the right of an. Oh, I forgot what I said. We have it on the spreadsheet.
Oh, okay. Well, tell us when you get back. Go do your thing. Get back here. We'll still be hanging out,
I'm
brother.
not leaving yet. It's just like
Okay.
10 minutes.
He's still got a few martinis to
Got
get.
it.
Well, I had fun.
But the right to control an object you can dispute over.
That's my definition.
That seems
Terminal
fine.
control.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with that
Well,
definition. That seems
the
fine to me.
difference, the contention was that whether or not scarcity should play a factor, or at least my definition of scarcity, because he would consider an idea to be an object, and I don't
That was
consider an
irrelevant.
idea. Yeah.
Because we agreed.
Did IP even come up?
I did, but it wasn't really relevant. Like he said, it wasn't really relevant to the conversation overall. But
Doesn't at all. And we
no.
also we agreed on the second formulation that I laid out, the an object you can dispute over, because that's what you define scarcity as. So we did come to an agreement.
It's
He
just
didn't like
the
our-
disagreement is I guess the disagreement was, if I'm not mistaken, it was whether or not a non physical object can be a property or not. It's because I was going to add a physical object, and you didn't want me to add physical object.
I feel like you guys should have let that sleeping dog lie. Like, I feel like it was never coming up.
I mean, that's why that's why we continued the debate, regardless.
Yeah, we both agreed it was irrelevant, so we were just gonna move on. But he didn't. He had a meltdown, and
I'm not gonna lie, this administrator seems kind of whack. I haven't spoken to him yet, but
he's a cool. I like him, bro. I like him, bro.
Oh, he might be cool. He just seems whack. I don't know.
cool.
He's an alright guy.
Like, really,
He just seems impatient.
He's very.
Bill seems very particular about how things are done.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it comes to like how these debates are done, he wants it to be like super structured, which I get it. You know, I understand why he's doing it, but
Beyond like an opening and closing statement, I don't usually like that.
yeah, he's more like he will literally write down every single one of your arguments, tie each argument to each other, and which I think is pretty cool. You know, but
I gotta. What does he call it? What's it called? The fucking tree.
Mhm.
What tree?
A brain tree or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
Bro.
Let's look at the brain tree.
Lego clowning on the brain tree for the past week or two. It's been gold, bro. I don't give a fuck about your tree, dude.
But he told me to organize it. I did. Then he changed the date on us and said we couldn't do it on Saturdays anymore, even though I told him yesterday we were doing it. And then he said that we weren't prepared for it, even though we had agreed on the subject like weeks ago, right? And we pinged.
Well, I think he just wasn't informed about it. I think he wasn't paying attention.
I told him yesterday that we moved it to today. He said he couldn't do Saturday, and I said, okay, we're gonna do it Sunday.
Yeah, you're lucky because I usually don't work. I usually work on Sundays.
No, but you agreed with me yesterday.
Yeah. No, yeah, of course. Yeah.
And he's the one that said we had to do it Sunday. So everyone.
I mean, it doesn't matter. We had the debate. So.
Yeah,
My interest in taking any of those challenges now has gone to zero. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I'm leaving the server after this. But
There were 3 of them. I was like, oh, maybe, but now I don't know.
Oh, you're leaving the server?
yeah, I'm not staying here anymore.
Right. Well, it was fun while it lasted.
I mean, we're in other servers.
Why don't we get
honestly, I had
six
a-
over news, man?
I had a great.
Because I don't fucking like Lego. That guy's a fucking asshole.
True.
It's fun. You should come back though. It'll be fun.
Yeah, you should.
All right, I'll come back.
You can get on a level with dude, Lego. He's just a particular kind of guy. He's
Listen,
really not bad.
all you need to do is you need to become a flat earther. That's what Lego's doing right now.
Yeah.
Oh, flat Earth,
Him and you will
bro.
fuck hard if you're a flat earther.
Oh, bro.
And he'll like you.
Bro, you should hear my my bed theory. If the Earth was round and we lay down, our beds would be curved, but it's not curved, so therefore the Earth is flat.
So stupid.
And also, thank you for recording the discussion. I appreciate it.
Yeah. It'll be. I mean, I'm live streaming, so it'll be
I was
there.
about to say you're still streaming, right?
Yes, I am. I'm playing World of Warcraft, so
Wait, are we gonna be attached to the Warcraft?
I guess. No, I wasn't playing World of Warcraft to the debate.
okay.
I only started when we finished. I booted it up and then I started playing.
You know, I think homie-
over World of Warcraft.
But now
See, I think-
they could see you, like your guys are in your own little section, and then the World of Warcraft is showing.
Gotcha.
See, I thought Neats was just kind of going to be upset that maybe we might be associated, God forbid, with World of Warcraft culture.
I would not like that. No.
Yeah, that'd be kinda,
Wait, what's wrong with that,
gay.
bro? What's wrong with that, bro?
It's gay.
Well, you know what? World of Warcraft is pretty base, in my opinion. All right.
More like gaist.
More like
I
gay,
love
yeah.
World of Warcraft. I am addicted. I love this game. I will never stop playing it. You can make your own character. You could do quests. You can
You can do that on
Raid.
Starfield.
Starfield is, I mean, it's not a bad game, but it wasn't really that good. But you can't do it with your friends.
Oh yeah, it's true.
There's a
That's the
massive
best part.
world
I
with
don't
all
have
your
any
friends doing dungeons and raids. It's epic, bro.
Nobody will
guys
really
are
be
missing
my
out.
friend.
All right, I think I'm gonna stop the stream now. So